What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the 2023 NFL Draft. It is 8 o'clock. The NFL Draft should be getting underway in any second now. The Detroit Lions hold the 6th and the 18th overall pick in these two draft classes. And just very, very quickly, as we get into it, I'm going to send out the link on Twitter as well as the link elsewhere, just to make sure everybody knows where to find us. So we will put out the link with 2023 NFL Draft live stream. Send that away. And send that. And we are ready for the NFL Draft. We have three people here to begin, as the Panthers not officially on the clock just yet. If I'm looking over to my left, it's because that is where the screen is. So the Panthers are not quite on the clock just yet, but they are going to be in just a few minutes. I've turned off Twitter. I've turned off Instagram. Anything that could give me notifications and spoilers is turned off. So we will get genuine live reactions to every single pick as it is announced by the general manager. And we have a couple people here already as we are set to get into it. And as you can see, this is my big board. I have done a lot of research over the last couple of months. I've watched a lot of tape. I've watched a lot of players, and I have graded over 180 different prospects, put them into a big board. I have them ranked by position, and then I have them ranked in an overall big board. So as the night goes on, we can kind of track at least how I evaluated these players and kind of talk about the things that I wanted to see the Detroit Lions do in this draft, and of course, see if they come to fruition. My dream scenario for tonight, Jalen Carter at 6. Jalen Carter at 6 is, I think, the most important pick of this class. I think if it happens, everything else on the top of this class is just absolute gravy. You have to get the best player if he's available. If Jalen Carter's there at 6, you have to take him. And if he's not there at 6, you need to take Will Anderson. If neither of them are available, I don't think there's such a thing as an A-plus pick at the 6th overall selection. You could potentially trade down. There's a lot of different options you could do, but a dream scenario tonight is walking away with one of the two SEC defensive linemen. Either Will Anderson or Jalen Carter needs to be the pick tonight for the Detroit Lions. That's why they're my number 1 and number 2 players on my entire big board. They are dominant. They can absolutely turn a team around. They can put a team over the top. They can improve the defensive line. They can improve the pass rush. They can improve the run support. I mean, they are well-rounded, really, really good players. And the Lions hopefully are going to get one of them. Now, the Carolina Panthers are officially not quite on the clock, even though we're at 8:03. But it does seem like we are starting to get ready. We will have this up as well tonight. Obviously, going through draft picks and seeing who goes where, who gets selected at what pick. And we will kind of update it as things continue to go along. But yes, I believe, is there breaking news? There might be some breaking news. I'm not sure. It says news alert at the bottom. Cardinals and Eagles reach settlement of a tampering investigation involving the hire of Jonathan Gannon. Both teams agreed to swap 2023 third-round picks, and the Cardinals will receive Eagles' 2024 fifth-round pick. Interesting. That is a very interesting and very random thing to happen right before the draft. So I read it, but I didn't quite process exactly what it was. So Cardinals and Eagles reached settlement of a tampering investigation involving the hiring of their new coach. So they're swapping thirds this year, and then the Eagles will receive a fifth-round pick next year. So that is the updated draft order news, I guess, technically, is the Cardinals and the Eagles will be swapping third-round picks, which essentially, if it goes all the way down, it doesn't, which means the Eagles basically gained 28 spots in the third round for nothing because the Cardinals were tampering in the hiring process of Jonathan Gannon. That is pretty significant. But yes, as you can see, we're going to go back to the big board. I have Jalen Carter at number 1. I think Jalen Carter is the best defensive player in this class. I know there's a lot of off the field stuff. I know there's a lot of concerns. I know that there are a lot of question marks with Jalen Carter, but he's also, again, the most talented player in this class. He is somebody that can make this defense 10 times better by being on the field. I think Will Anderson can do the same thing. I think Will Anderson at a different position, obviously, but has still played kind of a versatile role at Alabama last year, played the edge rusher role, played the 5 technique, even played a little bit of the 3 technique at Alabama. Like, Alabama put him in a lot of different roles, and I think he benefited a lot from their scheme, and I think he got a lot of open looks because of the Alabama scheme, but his quickness off the line, his hand usage, he is just really, really good. And he's not necessarily got the best bend or best power, but he's got really good hand usage, a great get off the line. And either one of those is an A+ grade for me. Anything else is probably falling closer to the A- B+ range. Now, I do have the 2 quarterbacks, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, at 3 and 4. I think if either one of those are there and Jalen and Will Anderson are gone, you have to take a quarterback, right? The Lions are, I think, the best equipped team to have and see a rookie quarterback succeed. And Anthony Richardson's up there too because of his athletic upside. But if you have the opportunity to get one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this class, you have to get it at 6. You're not going to be picking in the top 10 again, hopefully for a very long time. You have the system around, or you have the system in place to have a rookie quarterback succeed early. You have the running game. You have the offensive line. Now you have the defense. You have the route runners. You have the wide receivers and the receiving weapons. So at this point, the Lions are at that stage, right? 2 years ago, we were talking about Zach Wilson or Trevor Lawrence or whatever the case may be to kind of restart this rebuild. And we talked about how you have to build the house before you can get your quarterback. You have to build the team up to a contender before you get your quarterback. Well, the team's a contender now. The team is ready to go win a division. It's ready to go win a Super Bowl as Roger Goodell is walking onto the stage right now to put the Panthers on the clock at number 1 overall. But if one of those 3 quarterbacks is there, I think you have to take them. All 3 of them have comparable grades. All 3 of them do different things very, very well. I think Bryce Young is just the best. I think CJ Stroud is probably the best fit. And I think that the Lions are probably the best fit for Anthony Richardson. I really, really don't think you can miss on any of those top 3 quarterbacks just because of the system the Lions have in place right now. And I really think that they should be off the board if that is the case. And I would almost be willing to bet that those are the top 5 picks. I think those are the top 5 players in this class. If the Lions get lucky enough for one of them to fall, that has to be the selection. I think I haven't really updated it since Tyree Wilson's whole injury medical concerns happened today. I like Tyree Wilson. I think he's very athletically gifted. I think he's incredibly strong. I think he's got the best bull rush and the best power in this class, but he has a really slow get off, does not use his hands very well. Kind of the opposite of Will Anderson, if you really want to say that, but opposite in a good way, right? Will Anderson's a finesse rusher. Will Anderson's going to get around you. Tyree Wilson is going to run through you, and it might take an extra second for him to get there, but he is going to walk right through your offensive line. So he is my 6. Lucas Van Ness is my 7. I know that it is extremely limited as far as what the tape was and as far as what tape was available because he just didn't play a whole lot at Iowa because of the coachings and the schemes and all the things like that. But I mean, this guy screams Aiden Hutchinson to me. This is a player that continues to impress me on tape. I've watched him go against Peter Skoronski twice. I've watched him go against Paris Johnson Jr. at Ohio State this past season. Every single time he is just a wrecking ball. He causes havoc. He never quits. I don't think is quite as raw as Tyree Wilson. I think he's a little bit better with his hand usage, and I think he bends just about as well as Tyree Wilson. He, again, isn't quite as powerful, but has such a high motor, has a much better get off, is just a very, very good football player. And again, screams Aiden Hutchinson to me. The size, the athleticism, the bend, the hands, the just style of play that they both have and the motor that they both have. screams Aiden Hutchinson 2.0. Now, Larry Shepard says, let's go Lions. Waiting for an awesome cast, bro. Love. Can't wait to see who we take. Hoping it's Jalen Carter or Will Anderson or Kalijah Kansky. All our monsters. Hoping for Bijan or a cornerback at 18. I'm very excited for this draft class. The Lions have an opportunity, right? I think right now they're the best team on paper in the NFL draft, or best team on paper in the NFC North, excuse me. They don't have very many holes on the roster anymore. I'd say the only things that they need to address this year are defensive tackle, probably linebacker in the later rounds, cornerback at some point, somebody that can eventually become a starting cornerback, a field stretching wide receiver, and probably an X wide receiver. And that's really it. Other than that, add depth at safety, maybe add depth at offensive line, but you only really are going into the draft with 3 or 4 needs because Brad Holmes has drafted this team so incredibly well over the last couple of years, and he has done a phenomenal job. The Lions are set at quarterback, at least for the near future. They're set at running back, at least at the top. You can obviously draft more depth and draft more talent, but you don't need to. You're probably going to draft a field stretching receiver, but again, if you don't, St. Brown and Raymond and Reynolds and Marvin Jones are a solid 4 until Jamison Williams gets back. So was Tom Kennedy, who just always seems to be playing good football. So your wide receiver set, your offensive line is set, unless you really want to add depth at tackle. Your tight end, you can always upgrade, but based on the fact that you traded away TJ Hawkinson, you don't really need a tight end, right? You don't need an elite tight end like Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews or George Kittle to be successful in the Lions scheme. So I just don't see that being a massive need either. Again, it's a position like running back and wide receiver that can be addressed, but it's not something that needs to be addressed. And then going over the defensive side, the fact that you have John Kaminsky coming back, the fact that you have Josh Pascal hopefully healthy, the fact that you have Levi Onwuzurike coming back hopefully healthy should already improve your defensive line. So if you can add Jalen Carter to that, or you can add Will Anderson, who's maybe the best pass rusher in this class, that's going to just make your defensive line stronger, right? If you can add a middle round linebacker that can cover, that completes your linebacking core from all the roles that you're going to need. And then if you can find a long-term safety, they don't need to play right away, right? Even if you go Christian Gonzalez or Devon Witherspoon at 6, they don't need to play on day one because you have Cam Sutton, you have Emmanuel Mosley, you have Jerry Jacobs, you have CJ Gardner-Johnson for the slot, you have even Will Harris, who's got some experience as a starting cornerback. So you don't necessarily need that guy. Now, as I've been talking, the Carolina Panthers have officially been on the clock. They have 8 minutes and about 20 seconds left on the clock. From what I've seen, this is going to be Bryce Young. From the mock draft that I put out this morning, it is going to be Bryce Young, and I will actually go to that mock draft right now. I will not look at any notifications. I will simply go to my profile, and I did a mock this morning. I did it on PFN because I wanted to do trades. Trades made the most sense to me. So I did that. I do have Bryce Young being the first overall pick to the Carolina Panthers. I don't think you trade up in this class for anybody that's not named Bryce Young. And, even though he might not be the best quarterback prospect in the last couple of years, even though next year's class is probably a little bit better for the quarterbacking position, I don't think you're going to find a better quarterback in this class than Bryce Young. I think the Panthers are in a team that can compete for the NFC South, a very weak division with Tampa Bay coming off a bad year, with, the Saints not really being in the greatest position. I think it's between the Falcons and the Panthers as to who is going to be the, contender for that division. And I think Carolina knows that. And I think that they know Sam Darnold wasn't going to get it done. Matt Corral is not going to get it done. Whatever quarterback they have on the roster isn't going to get it done. Andy Dalton, I think, is who they signed, is not going to win them a football division. So they go up and they get Bryce Young, somebody who is an incredible processor, somebody that is very accurate, is really good out of structure, is really good when improvising. And you go get the best quarterback in this class, somebody that just has everything you're looking for in a wide receiver. My pro comp for Bryce Young is Aaron Rodgers. He reminds me a lot of Aaron Rodgers because he is shifty. He moves around the pocket really well. He just seemingly escapes when there's no easy out for him in the pocket, makes crazy throws on the run, elevates the talent around him. Bryce Young, to me, is the Aaron Rodgers without the character things, right? He's Aaron Rodgers without the darkness retreat. He's Aaron Rodgers without the drama aspect of it. He is, I think, the best quarterback in this class. And again, he's not Caleb Williams. He's not Trevor Lawrence. He's not Andrew Luck, but he is very, very good. I mean, he is better than any quarterback. Last year, he probably going to the Carolina Panthers right now is probably going to walk in as at least a top 10 quarterback in the conference, right? I think if he goes to Carolina at 1, which I think is what we're expecting to happen, you see, obviously Hurts is better, Goff is better. I think Dak is better. I think that Kirk is better. And this is not necessarily an order. These are just the orders that I'm remembering them. So that's the big 4. And then you go to the South. I don't think that the Saints really, Derek Carr, I think Derek Carr, you'd give the slight edge. I don't think Desmond Ritter's better than Bryce Young. I don't think that Kyle Trask is better. Baker Mayfield is better. Going over to the East, obviously I said Jalen Hurts. I don't think Danny Dimes is better. I do think Dak Prescott, probably not Sam Howell. And then you go to the West, which is the 49ers, which I think you can make an argument for Brock Purdy, but I'd probably take Bryce Young over Brock Purdy. Stafford's better. You have the Rams. Kyler Murray's better. And then probably Geno Smith. So that would put him right at the 11th quarterback in the conference, which seems not very good, right? But as a rookie, you're walking in and you're already better than 5 or 6 NFL veteran quarterbacks who have been leading teams for a while before you even step foot on the field. I think that's a good pick for the Carolina Panthers. I think it puts them immediately in playoff contention for that division, which again is admittedly weak, but isn't going to be necessarily easy to win. I think that both the Falcons and the Panthers can get 9, even 10 wins. As Nariselli says, Jake Moody at 6. I can say that I know for a fact, actually, that you don't want Jake Moody at 6 because you've told me multiple times you don't want Jake Moody to be a Detroit Lion. You don't want him to have to go through that whole process. But Jake Moody at 6 would be quite a shakeup. And I think that there's probably a lot of people that would stand behind Brad Holmes. As weird as that might sound, like there would definitely be a number of fans who are like, no, Brad knows what he's doing. Like best kicker in the draft, won't miss a kick for you next year. We lost 2 or 3 games because of kicking, as Carolina does have the pick officially in. And we are going to see probably Bryce Young, 99% that is going to be Bryce Young. But we shall see in just a few minutes, just a few seconds as the commissioner walks out on the stage, and we will move one step closer to the Detroit Lions. They're going to finish talking, though, probably saying the same things I'm saying. I'll be on that desk one day on NFL Net, not with that kind, but with the NFL Network. Hopefully I'm at that desk sooner rather than later on draft night. That would be very entertaining and very fun to do. But yeah, I think Bryce Young is the guy. Bryce Young, my number 3 overall prospect, number 1 overall quarterback. I think he's a top 5 pick. I don't think there's enough good things to say. I think the size thing is overblown. Quite honestly, I don't think that the size thing makes very much sense at all. Like, obviously, you're at risk of getting hurt, but every quarterback's at risk of getting hurt, right? I think that not drafting the clearly most talented quarterback in the class because you're worried about size is, for lack of a better term, kind of a loser's mentality, right? You're almost looking for a reason not to draft somebody. You're almost looking for a reason not to take your quarterback. And that's just not how it is. You shouldn't evaluate people by what they can't do. You shouldn't evaluate them by necessarily talking yourself out of the prospect. You should be talking yourself into the prospect, into the player, and say, okay, yeah, he's a little small, but he's the best quarterback out there. Like, he's just trying to fix the lighting just a little bit. But I mean, he is clearly the best quarterback. He is the best playmaker. He's got the best processor, the best eyes. And Roger Goodell is coming out to make the selection. With the first overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Bryce Young, quarterback from Alabama. Now, again, Houston's on the clock. Not enough good things to say about Bryce Young. I mean, he is just a phenomenal player, a phenomenal prospect. And I think that Carolina's getting a good one. 5'10" and 1/8 inch, a 92 overall prospect by the next gen stats, 82nd athleticism, and 99 in the production standpoint. 2021 Heisman Trophy winner as the nation's top player. And I don't think there's a better pick that could have been made. My initial grade, I think, is an A. Right? It's hard to get an A+. It's hard to knock it out of the park with the number 1 overall pick because it's the number 1 overall pick. Like, they have to be the best player in the class just to meet expectations. But with that being said, the number 1 pick's also easy to mess up, right? We saw it with Jacksonville last year, who took Trayvon Walker. And I don't think Trayvon Walker is necessarily a bad football player, but he clearly wasn't Aiden Hutchinson or Kayvon Thibodeau. Right? We've seen a lot of teams try to outsmart everybody. A lot of teams try to be like, that's our guy. No, Bryce Young is the best player in the class. Houston's on the clock as of right now. And again, I think I think that Carolina has put themselves in a position to win the NFC South this season, kind of like the Jaguars did last year, right? Obviously, they didn't draft a quarterback, but they got a new coach. They got a new system. They got a new staff. They elevated the play of the guys already on the roster, and they went from the first overall pick to a division winner. They went from the first overall pick to the divisional round of the playoffs, even upsetting the Los Angeles Chargers, and a historic comeback within the playoffs. Right? I don't think Bryce Young has any glaring weaknesses outside of the things he can't control, like size. So I think this is a really, really good pick. Now, Houston is on the clock. A very interesting position for them. I think they go Will Anderson Jr. And as much as that hurts the Lions fan, as much as I don't want them to go Will Anderson Jr. because we need quarterbacks to go, we need offensive linemen to go early, we need somebody to trade up and let Jalen Carter fall out of the top 5. I think Will Anderson is the pick here, right? Maybe Anthony Richardson. I think that's a potential. And I know that Stroud got a lot of, for whatever reason, Stroud's odds dropped to like minus 2,000 at Vegas, like 10 minutes before the draft started, which potentially tells you something. But I get all of the conspiracy around the whole situation, right? I think that CJ Stroud, very, very talented quarterback. Like, do not get me wrong. I think CJ Stroud, talent-wise, is right up there with Bryce Young. I think both of them should be top 3 picks in this class. I think CJ Stroud is the most accurate quarterback. I think that he does process things incredibly well. The only thing I'd really have on him as far as that aspect is I think he anticipates a little too much, which is odd because most young quarterbacks don't do that. I think he anticipates a little too much, gets to that first, second read. Oh, it's not there. And so he's like, oh, I'll throw it to the third read, and almost does it out of instinct, almost does it out of reaction before actually checking to make sure that that third read isn't taken away too. But I mean, CJ Stroud can get to the next read. He can get the ball anywhere. I think he's the most gifted passer probably since Trevor Lawrence, maybe even before that. His accuracy is outstanding. But he has the same agent as Deshaun Watson, which I think will cause a rift. Right? I don't think Houston wants to deal with that again. I don't think they want to go through that process. I don't think that they want, not necessarily that they don't want CJ Stroud. I don't think they want CJ Stroud's agent. And I think that is going to keep CJ Stroud away from the Houston Texans at the number 2 overall pick. Again, it's kind of like the Lions situation. You got to build the house. You have to build the team before you can insert the quarterback to play in it, right? Positioning and the team around the quarterback is the biggest determining factor as to whether a quarterback succeeds or not. So you have to have the team around him before you put in a young quarterback. I think Carolina has a decent team around Bryce Young right now. I don't think Houston has a team to put around CJ Stroud. I don't think they have a team to put around Anthony Richardson. They don't have a defense. They have an okay offensive line. They have not very good weapons for them. They don't really have any good wide receivers. The only good wide receiver they had in Brandon Cooks was traded away this offseason. They don't really have a great running back. I think Dameon Pierce is fine, but not like a top 5, top 10 back in the league. So your running game's not that good. Your weapons aren't that good. And Will Anderson is a monster. So The pick is in for the Houston Texans. The head coach of the Houston Texans, whose name is currently escaping me, but the former defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, is on the phone with the prospect right now. The pick is officially in as we await Roger Goodell. I think I might see Joseph Dion on TV, but I'm not entirely sure. Maybe not. Somebody maybe just looked like him. But yeah, the pick is in at Houston. I would guess Will Anderson Jr., but I wouldn't be shocked if it was Anthony Richardson or CJ Stroud. I think all three of them have the talent to go number 2. I think Will Anderson is the safer pick. I think CJ Stroud is kind of the unforeseen pick, even though talent-wise it makes a lot of sense. And I think Anthony Richardson's kind of your wild card, right? I think the most athletically gifted quarterback. I think the quarterback with the most upside in a division and in a conference with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. You got to have a really good quarterback, and the Texans don't have that yet. So we'll see what happens here with the second overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. The Houston Texans select CJ Stroud, quarterback from Ohio State. It does surprise me just a little bit, right? I think that the odds dropping right before the draft was kind of a weird thing that if it didn't happen, it wouldn't make very much sense. Again, I think CJ Stroud is very much worthy of this pick. I'm not sure what the process was, right? I don't know how the Texans talked about it and they were like, hey, we really like Bryce Young and that's our guy, like that's our only guy. Or if they really did genuinely have 2 quarterbacks lined up, if they feel like they have to take CJ Stroud, I'm not entirely sure. But for the Lions, it's really, really good. That is another team, and really one of the only teams that could have taken Will Anderson that is now going to not take him. That means Will Anderson and Jalen Carter fall another spot. We are 4 selections from the Detroit Lions, and we need one of those 2 players to be there. Now, the Cardinals are kind of a weird one, right? There's all the talk about trading away. There's all the talks about trading out. There was a rumor even tonight about the Arizona Cardinals creating a deal with the Tennessee Titans, where they're going to send 3 and DeAndre Hopkins to the Titans, and the Titans get number 3. Right? I think that's how that works. The Titans would get 3 and DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know the exact details. Now that I'm saying it out loud, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I've seen a deal where the Titans are looking to trade up for the 3rd pick, and potentially DeAndre Hopkins are looking to deal him. So we will see. We will see what happens. I would assume that the Titans would have to give up quite a bit of capital. But CJ Stroud, the most accurate passer, the purest passer in this draft class, is officially a Houston Texan, which I think is very, very exciting. Again, great player. I think the most accurate quarterback in the class. What he did against Georgia was phenomenal. I think that's maybe not the sole reason, but maybe the primary reason as to why he was the 2nd overall pick. And Arizona's on the clock. I think the odds that Arizona stays here is 50-50. They are a team that have a lot of needs. They're starting over with a head coach. They have some defensive playmakers, but Budda Baker is on his way out. DeAndre Hopkins is on his way out. I think if you're Arizona and you can trade down somewhere into the top 15 and maybe get even an extra first, maybe 2 firsts back, right? 3 firsts total, then I think you have to take that. If you can get capital this year, if you can get capital next year, because they don't have bad picks, right? They have 3, 34, 94, 96. They have 4 picks in the first 3 rounds. But let's be honest, like, they don't have the most draft capital. They could very much look to trade down. Now, if they do stay here, which is, I think, what we're going to focus on until proven otherwise, I think that it should probably be an offensive lineman. Offensive line is how you build your team. I don't think you are going to, get better as the Arizona Cardinals with JSN. I don't think you're going to get better with Jackson Smith-Njigba or Bijan Robinson or Dalton Kitnick or whatever the case may be. Now, they may go secondary. I think secondary is kind of an underrated pick that we haven't talked a whole lot about. I genuinely wouldn't be shocked if Devon Witherspoon or Christian Gonzalez went here. I really would not be very surprised at all because the Cardinals need secondary help. They just got a defensive-minded head coach. They just got a head coach that is, coming over from the defensive coordinator of the Super Bowl runner-up Philadelphia Eagles. And defense wouldn't be a bad pick here. Jalen Carter could go. I think Will Anderson can go, but it's less likely. Devon Witherspoon could go. He has safety corner versatility. You can go Christian Gonzalez. You could go offensive tackle and just kind of get your best starting 5 offensive linemen on the field, which would be kind of an out there move. Or now that there's 2 quarterbacks off the board and there's really only one good quarterback left, because I'm not incredibly high on Will Levis, maybe somebody gets worried. Maybe somebody trades up for a quarterback. Maybe maybe the Cardinals trade down with the Titans, which is what I meant to say the first time. The Titans, or I've seen the Vikings potentially trading up. They have just under a minute left on the clock, which seems like not a lot of time to trade the pick, but also if you are trading away the pick, you kind of bring it down to the last minute because you want that team to sweat. Right? If the Titans are on the phone, you get that last minute, hey, you really want that guy? Because now the price is that extra 5th, or like now that price is that extra 6th round pick, right? It's that draft day scenario where it's, we'll take the guy here if you don't want him. But if you do want to trade up, it's that deal we talked about before, plus a 5th, plus a depth player, plus a special teams player, plus whatever the case may be, right? Give us a proven NFL veteran, or give us an extra 5th, 6th round pick. Just sweeten the deal a little bit for us, right? There are 56 seconds left on the clock. Potential trade. I really, really feel, and here it is. Oh my God, the Houston Texans just traded up. Oh my God, the Houston Texans are going to take Will Anderson Jr. They just traded up back to the 3rd overall pick after selecting CJ Stroud 2nd. And they are going to take Will Anderson off the board right now. I am almost positive that this is going to be Will Anderson, which would kind of make my mock draft right, because Will Anderson would end up being a Texan. But also that makes me really sad because I thought we were safe from the Texans, and now we're not. The pick is in. I believe that's Daniel Jeremiah on NFL Network talking about it. I'm not sure what he's saying because I don't have the volume on, but I would almost guarantee this is Will Anderson. I would almost guarantee the pass rusher from Alabama is going to go. Will Anderson is a really, really good player, somebody that I wanted the Lions to draft all offseason, right? It was between him and Jalen Carter for me. He's got, I think, the best get off in this class. I think he gets off the line of scrimmage so incredibly quickly. Has the quickness, has the hands, doesn't really have the bend or like elite power, but is good enough. And I think a really good comp for him is TJ Watt. I think a great comp for Will Anderson as far as play style, and I think as far as where he'll project in the NFL, is TJ Watt of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who was, I believe, won a Defensive Player of the Year award and has been nominated for several. The pick is in. Roger needs to keep us waiting because the NFL needs to hit their hourly mark. We're 30 minutes in and we're only on the 3rd overall pick. Oof. I'm not sure what the Texans gave up, though. But the Texans are on the clock. And I'm sure we'll get trade details. And if you have trade details, put them in the comments because I'd love to see what happened. I don't want to go on Twitter or Instagram or anything because I feel like picks will be spoiled and things will, be happening. But the 3rd overall pick is up. The Houston Texans just made a massive, massive trade. And if this is not Will Anderson, I would be shocked. 3rd overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans select Will Anderson Jr., the pass rusher from Alabama. I'm not going to lie. This one hurts just a little bit. I think the Colts are going to go quarterback. I think the Colts are going to go Anthony Richardson or Will Levis. Will Levis is ideal because then at least one of my top 5 prospects is going to fall to 6. But wow, 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 wow. Will Anderson, huh? The sixth overall pick, or third overall pick, excuse me. The third overall pick to the Houston Texans, back to back picks for the Texans. And they got the best pass rusher in the class. They got the second best quarterback in this class, the most accurate quarterback in this class, mind you, with some athleticism to move. And they're not in a position yet to necessarily win a division like Carolina, right? Because Jacksonville's pretty good. I think Tennessee, if they're healthy, can be solid. Like, I think they can still be a 7, 8, even 9-win team if Henry's healthy and Tannehill's healthy, and they get a nice weapon for Tannehill to utilize, like AJ Brown used to be. And then you have the Colts as well, who have been a solid organization for a long time, but have really just struggled with the quarterbacking thing. I don't think Houston's a division winner yet. I think this puts them probably above the Colts right now, and maybe on par with the Tennessee Titans, depending on what happens on the rest of tonight. But Will Anderson's very good. And I hate it. I hate that he is a Houston Texan. I hate that 31's not going to be a Detroit Lion. There are two players left in my top 5 that need to be there at 6. The Colts are on the clock. I need the Colts to make a decision that would benefit the Lions right here. I'm not entirely convinced that the Seahawks won't take Jalen Carter. I think there's a less likely chance because last year, especially, they kind of went with a lot of the high character guys. They went with the team captains. They went with the high football character, which is not Jalen Carter at this point, unfortunately, at least not what the media has him perceived to be. But their biggest need is defensive line, and Jalen Carter would be a very good defensive lineman for the Seattle Seahawks. So my mock draft is wrong, like straight off the bat. I didn't even get to the second overall pick entirely, but most people didn't. Now, I wonder what trade compensation actually was. I wonder if they have it posted yet. Because if we go to the Houston Texans, it says that they still hold the 33rd pick. It says that they still have 2 first rounders for next year, as well as a first rounder for 2025. So I'm not totally sure that it's in yet. Who traded down? The Arizona Cardinals traded down. They currently hold the 12th pick, and it doesn't have updated draft compensation yet, so I'm not sure exactly what it was. Nolan, if you're still here, I know that you're kind of my stats guy. You're kind of the guy that updates me on everything. So if you want to send in the chat what the trade was, that would be extremely helpful. I would be very appreciative of that. But, okay, here it is. So you get edge rusher Will Anderson and a 4th round pick for 12, a second, a first next year, and a third. So 2 first, a second, and a third for Will Anderson, and a 4th at 105. That's not a bad trade-off, genuinely. Like, trading 12 to 3 is, I think, exactly what the San Francisco 49ers did a few years ago for Trey Lance, and they ended up giving up 3 firsts for, I think, just Trey Lance. So the fact that you go up, 2 firsts, a second, and a third, but you get Will Anderson and a pick that's just outside the top 100, I think that's a good trade for the Houston Texans. Like, I think it's good value for the Cardinals. I think there's not really a clear winner of this trade, but I think Houston did a good job. It's a good move by Houston. Indianapolis Colts are in. The pick is in. I think this has to be a quarterback. I think it's going to be Will Levis or it's going to be Anthony Richardson. I hope it's Will Levis. If I was picking, it would be Anthony Richardson. If I had to predict what's going to happen, I would bet on Will Levis. I think Will Levis is not as good as Anthony Richardson, but I think there's going to be a lot of football teams that look at Will Levis and say, that guy can be Ben Roethlisberger. That guy can go be Josh Allen, right? That guy can throw 60, 70 yards flat-footed like Justin Herbert. And granted, so can Anthony Richardson, right? Anthony Richardson's a very good football player in his own right. Is super athletic, has a great arm. I think as far as accuracy goes, despite what the numbers might say, I don't think Will Levis is significantly more accurate than Will Levis, and I think that Anthony Richardson is a much better athlete. My pick would be Anthony Richardson. I think the Colts are going to go Will Levis. I think he kind of fits what the Colts have been looking for at quarterback, which is kind of a big, stocky guy that doesn't move very much, but can deliver the football. And I think if Will Levis can kind of rein it in a little bit, he'll be a solid quarterback in the NFL. I have him graded as 21st prospect overall, by the way. So I think this would be a massive reach if it is Will Levis, but I'm hoping. Just kidding. It's Anthony Richardson. I think this is the right pick. I really, really do. Jalen Carter is the last player on the board I would love. Jalen Carter is the last guy that the Lions need. If the Lions traded up right now, I wouldn't even be mad. If they gave up I don't know, a third and swapped 5th round picks with the Seattle Seahawks, I wouldn't even be mad. They should go get Jalen Carter right now. But talking about the pick as of the moment, Anthony Richardson is an Indianapolis Colt. And I think this is the right pick. I think this is the right order for quarterbacks to go off the board. Bryce Young's the best. CJ Stroud's the most accurate. Anthony Richardson has the most upside. And if Anthony Richardson hits in the AFC, you will have another super weapon. You will have a Patrick Mahomes. You will have a Josh Allen. You will have a Joe Burrow. You will have a Justin Herbert or a Trevor Lawrence, right? A top 5 quarterback in the division or in the conference is what Anthony Richardson's ceiling can be. He has the highest ceiling in this class, as it says on NFL Network: rare size, rare speed, 6'4", 244, runs in the 4.4s, has a cannon. I think has accuracy that is a little spontaneous due to footwork. But I think his pocket presence is, I think, the most underrated part about his game. He can get the ball any place on the field from any arm angle, is just a superb playmaker. Phenomenal playmaker for the Indianapolis Colts. And I think this is the right pick. Now, going forward, I don't think Seattle takes a quarterback. I don't think Detroit takes a quarterback if it's Will Levis. I would a little bit be shocked if the Raiders take a quarterback, or the Falcons. I think they like Desmond Ridder. The Bears won't take a quarterback. The Eagles won't take a quarterback. I think the next place we could even see Will Levis potentially go is Tennessee. And of course, there are trade-up options, right? But as far as the next stretch of players and stretch of teams, I don't think Will Levis is going to go very highly at all. Now, I did have Anthony Richardson going 3rd overall. He ended up going 4th overall to the Indianapolis Colts. I think it's a good pick. I think this is an A pick, right? I think you have to bet on the upside. I think you have to bet on the talent. You have to bet on a kid that has started one season of college football, but was really dynamic, was a really good playmaker, showed the accuracy, showed the pocket movement, showed the pocket presence, showed the arm strength, showed the accuracy at times. And, a lot of people are going to point to his completion numbers and be like, oh my God, how are you going to draft a quarterback that in college completed 53% of his passes? But that's not how you should look at it. Florida did him no favors. Florida had no weapons, right? They had a decent offensive line, an okay run game. They had no receiving weapons. They had very poor coaching, to be entirely honest. Anthony Richardson probably averaged 6 or 7 deep balls a game and was the second highest ADOT score in the NFL or in college football last year, right? He had the second highest average depth of target in the entire country, only behind Hendon Hooker last year. And we all know that the Tennessee offense was not NFL friendly, right? It had a lot to do with spacing. That's not going to be there in the NFL. It had to do a lot with quick reads and one read plays and everything like that, quick screens or bombs away. And it works for Tennessee. But Anthony Richardson kind of had a similar thing going on at Florida, but he did a lot more. He called protections. He called reads. He got to the 3rd or 4th read at times, showed the accuracy, showed the playmaking. If Anthony Richardson can be consistent, and I'm talking 80% of the time, not even every play. If Anthony Richardson can be consistently good 80% of the time, The Indianapolis Colts are going to win more games this year. He's a dynamic playmaker. He's got the arm. He's got the talent. I would almost sit him behind Matt Ryan for a couple of games or Gardner Minshew for a couple of games because let him learn. Let him learn from a former MVP. Let him learn kind of in practice through training camp, through the first couple of weeks of the NFL season. Like, hey, this is what the game is, right? Matt Ryan goes out there, makes a mistake, comes back to the bench. Hey, this is what happened. This is what I saw as a veteran. This is what we should have done, right? This is what I should have done. This is where you can learn from me, right? And then, if the Indianapolis Colts start winning a couple of games, it's like, oh, Matt Ryan is the guy for this year and Anthony Richardson can sit and we don't have to waste Matt Ryan's money on the bench. Or, you start off 0-5, 0-6 with Matt Ryan because, like, let's be honest, he's a little bit past his prime. And you throw in Anthony Richardson and it is fun, right? At the very, very least this year, the Indianapolis Colts are going to be a fun football team to watch, a fun team in Madden to use. They're going to be a fun team to watch because Anthony Richardson, whether he's good or not, whether he pans out in Indy or doesn't, which I think he can, I think they have a good offensive line or at least a solid core, right? Quentin Nelson kind of single-handedly puts it in like at least the top 20 offensive lines. They have obviously Jonathan Taylor. That run game should be absolutely deadly. They have Michael Pittman, who's a pretty good receiver. They have Jelani Woods, who's, again, a pretty big body wide receiver target for Anthony Richardson. He's in the most talented situation he's ever been in. And, whether he works out or not is to be determined. But as of right now, if I had to bet on a situation, if I had to bet on a quarterback or a place even for Anthony Richardson to go and succeed, there's a lot worse places than Indianapolis. Right? And we can go like the Colts depth chart and just kind of take a look because I don't think the Colts are that bad of a roster. Like, I know they went 4-12-1 last year and tied and lost to the Houston Texans, who weren't very good, but they have Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss, who's a pretty good duo. They have Michael Pittman, who's has a big catch radius. They have Alec Pierce, who's got a big catch radius. They have Isaiah McKenzie, who's a pretty fast player, like, can kind of be that deep threat. They have Jelani Woods and Mo Alley Cox as big body tight ends for receiving. They have Quentin Nelson and Ryan Kelly, who at the very those two are a pretty good starting duo. You can improve the rest of the line for sure, but at the very least, you have two good offensive linemen. And then, your defense has some playmakers, right? It has Kwity Paye, who's okay. You have DeForest Buckner, who's really good. You have EJ Speed, who I think is underrated, as well as Samson Ebukam. You have Shaquille Leonard, who's really good. You have Kenny Moore, who's probably the best slot player in the league, right? You have Nick Cross, who's a good young safety. Like, this team has some young talent. Like, they're not the Texans, right? They're not the Bears going into the offseason, right? They weren't starving for talent. They were starving for consistent quarterback play. They were starving for a playmaker. They were, starving for a guy that could get their playmakers the ball. And I think they have that now with Anthony Richardson. Now, the Seattle Seahawks are on the clock. The pick is officially in. The Lions are now on the clock, actually. And I'm very nervous. My gut would tell me this is Jalen Carter. My genuine hope, and how far does PFF drop? How far did they drop? Tyree Wilson's down at 28. Oh my goodness. That would be insane. I know the foot or like the foot injury and the surgery and everything was a big deal, but oh my God, like a consensus top 5 talent, consensus top 10 talent at the very least is down at 28. That is incredible. I could see them going quarterback or cornerback. Is what I meant. CB, defensive back. Their secondary was good last season, but definitely didn't have the best. They're showing Will Levis right now, which could be the potential pick. If it's not Jalen Carter, I will be genuinely so excited. And if it is Jalen Carter, I'm going to feel so defeated. It's going to come down to this pick specifically. This is going to decide the Lions' first round. With the 5th overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Devon Witherspoon. Okay, it is a defensive back. It is Devon Witherspoon, a very good player. mind you. I have him at 10 or 11 on my big board. That does not mean I think he is not worthy of a top 5 pick. This dude hits. He is scrappy in coverage. I think he allowed 1 yard in press coverage this year, or some crazy, stupid statistic like that. Like he's a really, really good cornerback. Do not get me wrong. He can play safety. He can play corner. He can play any DB position you need, slot, boundary, nickel, big nickel, whatever, right? He can play strong safety, deep safety. He can do whatever he needs to do. But Jalen Carter is not a Seattle Seahawk. Now, this does make a little bit of sense. Like I said earlier, Devon Witherspoon is somebody that is a high football character, right? He was a captain at Illinois. He was the best cornerback on one of the best pass coverage defenses in college football last year. 0 touchdowns allowed in coverage last season. Really, really good. Here, I think my pro comp for him was Darius Slay. He was a really good football player. And I'm not surprised he's the number 5 overall pick. He was my cornerback too for the Lions specifically, but I mean, it was 1A and 1B. Like it was interchangeable, whatever you want to say. If the Lions don't make it to the 15-minute mark, which is like what they should be doing, like it's the unwritten rule of the draft, it's Jalen Carter. Like if this pick goes away and the Lions have their pick in and it's only been like 5 or 6 minutes, it's Jalen Carter. I like no doubt. And for me right now, it is between Jalen Carter and Christian Gonzalez, who's down here at number 12. It's between those two, or a potential trade down, right? If the Eagles get really hungry and they're like, hey, we need Jalen Carter and they're going to go up 10 and 30, then by all means go get that, right? By all means move down to 10. You'll probably still get Christian Gonzalez at 10, to be totally honest, because I don't think the Falcons take him. I don't think the Raiders take him. I don't think the Bears take him. And if you're trading up, I don't think that the Eagles are going to take him, even though I think that's who they'll take at 10 if he's there. Jalen Carter has to be a Lion. Jalen Carter has to be the pick. If it's not Jalen Carter, it has to be Christian Gonzalez. Those are the only 2 acceptable answers to this point. It has to be Jalen Carter. Has to be. I know there's the character concerns. I know there's the street racing concerns. I know there's the pro day workout concerns, whatever. And I know it even came out today that Jalen Carter was like, hey, I could have worked harder, or like I could have probably done more this offseason. And everybody took that as, oh, he's not going to be a Detroit Lion. I think he's going to be a Detroit Lion. Like Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have not talked about this guy at all. They have kind of stayed away from him all offseason, I think, not to draw attention like they did with Hutchinson last year, like they did with Jameson Williams. They didn't even meet with Jameson Williams last year, actually. Fun fact, they did not have him in for a top 30 visit. I don't even think they interviewed him at like the Combine or the Pro Day. They had no contact with him whatsoever. They did bring Jalen Carter in for a top 30 visit, which I think is something you have to do. I think that you have to bring that guy in, and the Lions are on the clock at the 6th overall pick. We need Lions fans in here. If you know somebody, or you can put it out on your Twitter or whatever, to promote this video. Come on, let's get this out. Let's get these Lions fans in here. I want to see all the Lions fans' reaction to these picks. And I need the comment section to get going. We need to get Dr. Detroit in here. We need to get One Pride 40 in here. We need to get all the Lions people in here right now, because the Lions are on the clock at number 6. And Jalen Carter is available, guys. I mean, he is up there. He is available right now. And we are going to see what happens. I know people are probably at, Detroit Lions on the prowl, which makes a lot of sense. They're a great, great channel over there. But let's get some Lions fans out here. Come on. If you're in the chat right now, send it out. Send it out on Twitter. Ooh, the Lions traded the pick. Maybe they're not very high on Jalen Carter. The Lions traded the 6th overall pick to the Arizona Cardinals, and the Lions are at the 11th pick. Now, judging what the Cardinals got for 3, I would expect at least a first-round pick in return. To move down, 6 spots? Yeah, 6 spots. I would expect at least another first, so probably 11 and maybe even the first that they got from Houston. But either first would be a high one probably next year. which means they're probably not very high on Jalen Carter, or they expect Jalen Carter to be there, which is really, really interesting. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little upset because, like I said, Jalen Carter's been the guy I've pounded the table for, my number one prospect. I'm not entirely sure who the Cardinals are trading up for. Maybe it's Jalen. Maybe it's Paris Johnson Jr. potentially. Maybe Peter Skoronsky is an option. I think this is probably a little high for JSN or like Nolan Smith. I would guess this is Paris Johnson or whoever the Cardinals have graded as their highest offensive lineman. They have 1:30 left on the clock. The pick is in. Maybe it's Jalen Carter. They do need defensive line. Like, that's a very real need for them. This is Brad Holmes' first trade back in an NFL draft of his tenure with the Detroit Lions. And we are going to see exactly what is going to happen. The pick is in at 6. The Lions no longer hold that pick at 6. The Arizona Cardinals do. It's at commercial right now, so we're going to be a couple seconds until we end up finding out the pick. Man. Ooh, Daniel Jeremiah's board goes Bijan is the 3rd, Tyree is the 4th, Jalen is the 6th, then Skoronsky at 8, Kitnick at 9, Gonzalez at 10. If you drop down to 12, and who knows, they might even move back up because who knows. But I want to know, before I grade it, before I like say what's going on, before I'm like, oh my God, this is a great or awful thing, we're going to have to wait and see. What this does tell me, especially if Jalen Carter doesn't make it, is it tells me one of two things. Either we are much higher on Jalen Carter than the consensus, and there is true concern as to why he did not go top 5 and he falls out of the top 10, or the Lions weren't comfortable with him. The Lions might just not have been comfortable, or they just didn't grade him very highly. Like, there's a chance they have like their eye on somebody else down in the draft. There's a chance that they just wanted that value. Maybe they're good. Maybe they're having, Brad Holmes is playing 4D chess and he's out there saying, hey, if we get a Cardinals first or a Texans first next year, that's going to be a top 10, probably maybe even a top 5 pick. That's Caleb Williams. That's Drake May territory. So the Cardinals have traded for the 6th overall pick. And with the 6th overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Paris Johnson Jr. That is actually who I projected. That is who I predicted it to be. Kind of on a hot streak right now. And I got Bryce. I said CJ was a possibility. I knew Will Anderson. I knew Anthony Richardson. And I did suggest Devon Witherspoon. Now, the top 5 is obviously easier to project because there are only so many guys worthy of a top 10, top 5 pick. And Paris Johnson's the 6th guy. I had a feeling this would be Paris Johnson. I think he is the most high upside tackle in the class. Right? I think he is a player that gives the Cardinals an easy tackle one on day one, somebody that's going to protect Kyler Murray. Not that Kyler Murray is going to be able to see over him because he's like 6'8" and Kyler Murray is 5'10", which is like Paris Johnson Jr. is no joke, almost a foot taller than Kyler Murray. But Paris Johnson Jr. has the best tools in the class, was really good at Ohio State for several years. And only struggled in a handful of games. I know he didn't do the best versus Georgia, didn't do the best versus Michigan either time. But other than those 2 games, like Paris Johnson was no joke, really, really good. Even when he went up against guys like Lucas Van Ness, he did a really good job. Paris Johnson Jr., long, quick feet, reminds you a lot of Andrew Thomas. I thought he was a little bigger. He's 6'6.5", so not quite a foot taller than Kyler Murray, but not too far off. And he's imposing in the run game. He's got quick feet and good hands for the pass block game. If you're Arizona, this is the right pick, right? Yeah, there's a lot of talk about, you losing Budda Baker. There's a lot of talk about you having a defensive coach, which I talked about at 3, right? But now that you're at 6, I think this is a good spot for an offensive lineman. I wouldn't be shocked if the Raiders go offensive line here, to be quite honest. Like, I think now that the first tackle's off the board, I think a couple other tackles are going to come off within the top 10 or 15 because the tackle class is not great, right? Paris Johnson Jr. is really good. Peter Skoronski is really good. And I think Broderick Jones is really good. And then after that, straight down. So I would not be surprised if the Raiders go offensive line, the Bears go offensive line, and the Eagles go offensive line. I wouldn't be surprised if Pittsburgh traded up for this pick because I think that's very possible. They definitely need a defense or offensive lineman. Jalen Carter fell to 6, and Jalen Carter is still on the board. Now, I don't think he makes it past 9, and if he ends up making it past 9, there's a real problem. Like, if he makes it past the Bears at 9, who I think are the most easy, natural fit for Jalen Carter, there is definitely a concern, which is scary. Now, Jalen Carter going to the Bears is also scary. So the Lions traded the 6th overall pick in exchange for the Cardinals number 12 from the Texans, a 2023, and just a 2023 second round pick. That's it. That doesn't seem very high, although it is the second pick or the third pick in the second round. Yeah, it is right there. So, not 2 firsts, but like 2 top 35 picks to move down 6 spots. Not perfect value, but they certainly didn't get fleeced. And I think they have their eye on somebody. I think they have somebody in mind, right? Whether that's Christian Gonzalez, whether that's Lucas Van Ness, whether that's like maybe even Nolan Smith, which honestly wouldn't agree with necessarily, but like wouldn't think is like the dumbest thing in the world. We're going to have to wait and see even farther. We only have 3 people in the chat right now. People, can we get these views up? Can we promote this video a little bit? Get people out from where they are watching. I know there's a lot of people at the Lions draft party. I know there's a lot of people at Detroit Lions on the prowl. But come on, people, let's get some people in here. We are a couple picks away from the Detroit Lions selecting at the 12th overall selection. And then again at number 18, we should have a very strong going right now, and we just don't have that. So if you can support and send out this video to whoever may be watching, that would be incredibly helpful. I know there's a lot of competition tonight for views, and there's a lot of competition for who's watching and who's going to be commenting, but we need us a playmaker. Now the Raiders are on the board at 7. The Lions got 2 top 35 picks, now holding 2 second-round picks. In three second-round picks, in the second round this year. We're going to have to see what happens. The pick is in for the Raiders. I would almost guarantee this isn't Jalen Carter because I honestly don't think they can afford Jalen Carter right now. But Will Levis is a possibility. Will Levis is a very real possibility. Peter Skoronski is a real opportunity. Or Christian Gonzalez. I think those are the 3 options. Right? I think it's Peter, it's Will, or it's Christian. And we're going to have to wait and see who it is as the pick 7 is in and Atlanta is officially on the clock. I don't know. I don't see Jalen Carter falling past the Bears, unfortunately. I really, really don't. And like I said, it either tells me that the Lions weren't comfortable with him, or like as a personal thing, which means there's something very wrong with Jalen Carter, or the entire league is not very high on Jalen Carter. And they think Jalen Carter is going to be available later. Now, I think defensive tackle is a pretty deep class, actually. Kind of going over to my ranks. I have Jalen Carter as around 1. I have Kalijah Kancey as around 1. I have Mekhi Becton and Mozzie Smith as round 2 guys, but I think they could sneak into the late round 1. And I mean, I think we could see 4 defensive tackles in the first 35, 40 picks. So it's a solid deep class. Like there will probably be somebody there at 35. There will be somebody there at 18 if you really want a defensive tackle. There's not really, other than him, a premier pass rusher unless you really want Kalijah Kancey as a rotational piece. I don't know. We're going to find out, though. We're going to find out. Everything right here on Right or Wrong YouTube channel focus on the Lions primarily, but tonight we're all about the NFL draft. 7th overall pick is officially in. The Raiders did sign Jimmy Garoppolo to a 3-year, $75 million contract, I believe was the exact numbers, maybe 72 this offseason. But that does not eliminate them from the quarterback battle. My official pick before it's on the screen, I do not know. I'm going to guess Will Levis. I'm going to think Josh McDaniels takes a swing. I know that they just got Jimmy Garoppolo. I changed my mind. Peter Skoronski, lock it in. Arguably best offensive lineman in the class, has position versatility. Protect Jimmy Garoppolo, save your job, win more games, improve the running game. It's Peter Skoronski, pick at 7. Roger is announcing it right now. My girlfriend is trolling me, telling me that tonight the Lions aren't going to pick, which would make me really, really sad. But with the 7th overall pick in the 2023 draft, it's Tyree Wilson. Ooh, Tyree Wilson. Foot injuries, slow get off, and all. Ranked as the 28th prospect on PFF's big board. However, throughout the entire draft process, a consensus top 5 pick, mind you. And he is a Las Vegas Raider. I think this is a good pick for Vegas. I really, really do. 2-time AP All-American selection for the second team. 2022 second team All-AP All-American. 2022 first team All Big 12 selection. Arguably the highest ceiling, highest upside in the NFL draft. 6'6", monstrous athlete. High football character, which is something that doesn't always get talked about, but for the Raiders especially, high football character is really important for them. And he is going to Vegas. The Atlanta Falcons are on the clock. Jalen Carter's available at 8. I don't see him going here. I see our maybe wide receiver, if they like, Jackson Smith-Njigba or Quentin Johnson or somebody like that. Maybe Nolan Smith or Lucas Van Ness, because I think they're very good edge rushers and they could use the help. Wild pick would be Bijan Robinson. Like, 3rd year in a row under Arthur Smith, very clearly reaching for positional value, but getting maybe the best offensive player in the class, right? They did it in 2021 with Kyle Pitts, 2022 with Drake London, and now they're going to go 2023 and they're just going to be like, nah, we're going offense. We're going to run the ball down everybody's throat. We're going to go get Bijan Robinson pairing up with Cordero Patterson and just give Desmond Ridder all the tools that he could ever want and play with. But going back to Tyree Wilson, I think a good player. I don't like his slow get off. I don't like the fact that he's very raw. I don't like, not that he has a bad motor, but it just isn't as high as guys like Nolan Smith or Lucas Van Ness. I think this is a good pick. I think this makes the most sense. I think this is the safest pick for the Las Vegas Raiders. High football character, not the highest floor, but also a player that immediately comes in day one, stops the run. Probably a 7-8 sack guy in his rookie season if he's healthy. I think they're taking a big risk with him being a first-round selection. I think they're taking a big risk with his, surgery and his foot problems and all the things like that. The pick is in at 8. That did not take very long at all. I think the craziest thing here would be if they drafted Bijan Robinson straight up. Like, I know that's kind of crazy to think about, and like that would almost fit them really well because that's what they've done the last two seasons, last 2 off seasons. And it doesn't not make sense, right? Bijan Robinson, I think, is easily the best offensive player in this class, or at the very least, easily the best non-quarterback in this class, like offensively. He's an elite running back prospect, like does everything so incredibly well, even catches the ball very fluidly most times. You would have Desmond Ridder on a rookie contract for 3 more seasons. You'd have Drake London. You'd have Kyle Pitts. You'd have Bijan Robinson around them. Who else do they have? I'm sure their offense is even better than that. Falcons depth chart. I looked at it this morning when I was doing my mock. Now, I had them trading away in my mock. I have Tyler Algier, Cordero Patterson, and they could add Bijan Robinson. They could add a wide receiver. Like, I could see Quentin Johnston being the pick here, even though I wouldn't agree with it. I could see that happening for sure. They have Scotty Miller, the speedster. They have Drake London, the top 5 pick. They have Kyle Pitts, the former top 5 pick. Their defense, not bad, right? Calais Campbell's very good. David Onyemata's very good. Grady Jarrett's really good. Linebacker could need some help, but you're not going to address it here. Your pass rush is okay with Arnold Ibiketti. Your cornerbacks, not great, but not bad. A.J. Terrell, Jeff Okudah, Jesse Bates, Jalen Hawkins, solid secondary with Richie Grant and Mike Hughes are 2 solid depth players. Actually, both these cornerbacks were former Lions. And I think this is going to be an offensive pick, right? Taking a look at who's left on the board, maybe it's offensive line. I'm not entirely familiar with the offensive line. I don't know. Jake Matthews is okay. I feel like Chris Lindstrom's been all right. I genuinely don't know very much about the Falcons offensive line, so I don't know if that's where they're going to go. I know that a safe pick and an easy pick would be Peter Skoronski. You could slide him in immediately at any of the starting 5 positions and just kind of, get your best 5 on the field for Desmond Ridder's protection. But I think the fun pick here is Bijan Robinson. That's what I'm hoping. That's what I really want to happen. So that's the official prediction. That's the official what I think is going to happen. I have Bijan Robinson ranked as the 10th overall player, so it wouldn't even be that significant of a reach. As of right now, Will Anderson, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Tyree Wilson are all off. That's not what I wanted. Are all off the board. We'll X out that one too, because why not? Paris Johnson Jr. is off the board. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 selections, as well as Devon Witherspoon. Devon Witherspoon was the 5th overall pick in the draft. This is where my big board looks right now for the Detroit Lions. The number 1 player, in my opinion, is still there. The number 7 player is still there. The number 8 player is still there, and they're picking at 12. Now, the Atlanta Falcons put in this pick very quickly. This tells me that they knew who they wanted. They knew who they wanted. They were sitting, they were hoping, praying with crossed fingers that this guy was going to fall to them. And we're going to see exactly what happens. Admittedly, with Tyler Algier having 1,000 rushing yards last year, Bijan doesn't make the most sense. But it would be such a fun pick. Like, it would probably ruin a lot of bets. And it's not likely. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that would be what I want to see. Official before Roger Goodell says the pick. I don't know. Quentin Johnston makes sense. Maybe Lucas Van Ness or Nolan Smith makes sense for the Cardinals, but they kind of took an edge rusher high last year. We're going to see. With the 8th overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons are going to select. Roger's giving a speech. Hold on. Roger's giving a talking to. I'm not entirely sure what they're talking about. They have 2 people next to him. He's giving a speech, giving a talk. Probably getting booed while doing it because that's the fun thing to do at the draft. Trust me, it's infectious. You can't help it. You start booing the commissioner. You can't help it. You can't help yourself. It's what you do. Special guest taking the pick. And with the 8th overall selection in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons are going to select Bijan Robinson, the running back out of Texas. I'm going to give myself credit there. I'm going to give myself credit. The Falcons did it. They did the thing. This is the most Falcons pick I could ever think of. Now you have a 1,000-yard rusher, Cordero Patterson, and Bijan Robinson in the same backfield with weapons of Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Scotty Miller to throw to. This offense should score 30 points a game. Genuinely should score 30 points a game. Because as far as skill positions go, they're golden. The only thing that's going to hold back this team right now is going to be the offensive line, the quarterback play, or the defense, or the head coach who doesn't decide to throw the ball to a freakish Kyle Pitts more than twice a game. But oh my goodness, Bijan Robinson, the eighth overall pick, is the guy at number 8. First team All Big 12 selection. 10th player on my board for the Detroit Lions. Is definitely not going to make it to 18 where people wanted the Lions to draft him at. Bijan Robinson is an Atlanta Falcon. I like the pick. The position value obviously isn't there, right? Bijan Robinson, based on just pure odds, not that I think this is going to happen, based on what we've seen recently, Bijan Robinson is going to dominate the league for 4 to 5 years, at least. Maybe he has the longevity like Derrick Henry. Maybe he can, play a little bit longer and not take as many hits because he's a pretty shifty guy. He's a pretty elusive back, right? He's not going to take a lot of hits, but he's a running back, right? They get a lot of wear, they get a lot of tear early. You never know how long running backs are going to last. The 8th overall pick seems like fairly appropriate value for Bijan Robinson, right? Arguably the best offensive player in the class. I think the best running back since Saquon Barkley back in 2018. So the best running back in over 5 years. Has like real legitimate receiving ability too. So it's not like he's just a downhill runner like Derrick Henry. Like you can send this guy out on routes and he'll do fine, like swing routes or wheel routes, or even like he ran a post one time for Texas and looked like actually decent doing it and caught the ball for a good chunk, like for a good gain off a safety. So there's real possibility for sure. Like there's some real upside there with Bijan Robinson. I think graded as the best player maybe from NFL's advanced statistics, but man, oh man, Bijan Robinson going to Atlanta, joining Desmond Ridder and the 2 other top 5 offensive weapons that they've given him. And I think the only thing holding them back at this point is going to be their head coach, Arthur Smith. If he takes a step forward this year, I think this team can win a division. They have the skill players to do it. They have the defensive playmakers to do it. Right now, they need the quarterback and they need the offensive line. I think Desmond Ridder can be the quarterback. And that is such a wild selection. That is a crazy one. Well, Bijan Robinson's the pick. Philadelphia traded up to 9. Philadelphia made a trade. They're on the clock now. And this has to be Jalen Carter. Like, no question. This has to be Jalen Carter. I have no doubts about it. The pick is in. The 9th overall selection. Philadelphia Eagles traded up 1 spot with the Chicago Bears. So I guess Bears fans were technically right. They did trade down twice in this class. I can't imagine they got very much in return. It's 1 overall spot, like probably maybe a 4th. But, I mean, this has to be Jalen Carter, right? Maybe Christian Gonzalez is like a dark horse answer, but this has to be Jalen Carter. They just lost Hargraves, Javon Hargraves. They need the pass rush. They're pretty old on the defensive line, at least on the interior. They have Jordan Davis, but he was hurt a lot last year. This has to be Jalen Carter. It just has to be. Christian Gonzalez makes sense too, right? James Bradbury is old. Darius Slay is old. Their cornerback and secondary room is not very young. Just crazy. Wow. Bijan Robinson, the 8th overall selection, huh? All right. The pick is in for the Philadelphia Eagles. As I said, they've traded up. And we're going to see what happens. I would be utterly shocked if this was not Jalen Carter. because there was rumors that they wanted to trade up before the draft to get him. There was rumors that they really like him. There was rumors that they were going to take Bijan Robinson. So I would guess Bijan and Jalen were the last two guys on their board that they needed to have, and they didn't feel confident that Jalen was going to get past Chicago. So I'm going to guess this is Jalen. Again, best defensive lineman in the class, best player in the class talent-wise. You have obviously the problems with like the off-the-field stuff and the off-the-field question marks, but if anybody's going to help him out, it's going to be the team that just went to the Super Bowl. They have a strong culture there. Nick Sirianni might not even care, to be totally honest. But with the 9th overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles, it is Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter is going to be a Philadelphia Eagle, not a Detroit Lion. I can't tell if he's upset or happy. He looks... Well, he's being blocked by everybody. But he's got a smile on his face. So, Jalen Carter, all off-field issues and all, is going to the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I did not see a world where Jalen Carter fell out of the top 10. I wanted the Detroit Lions to get Jalen Carter so incredibly badly. But that means the Lions have 3 picks. That means the Lions have to survive 3 selections before their pick is up. Oh, okay. Well, spoiler alert, the Bears select Darnell Wright, which means I am slightly behind. I'll see if I can reload it and kind of get up to speed here. Nope. Either the broadcast is behind or just like NFL is just really quick on their website. Nope, I think that the broadcast is just a little bit behind, which is fine. Jalen Carter, really good player. First off, Jalen Carter, phenomenal guy. I think that the character concerns were slightly overblown. I think anybody that consciously makes the effort to, take money out of your own scholarship to pay for the meal plans of your teammates is not a bad person. Bad decision maker, maybe. Right? Influenced by others' decisions, maybe. But bad person, I don't think so. I think he is I think he's a great football player, a good person. And the Lions are going to walk away here, if I had to guess, with either Lucas Van Ness or Christian Gonzalez. 2 guys I would have genuinely been okay with at 6. So we got to go down to Darnell Wright, the 23rd player in my big board. But what was he? I think the 3rd or 4th. He was the 4th offensive lineman. I had a top 25 grade on him. I think that not knowing if he can play left tackle and right tackle is a concern, right? Didn't do that at college, which is a concern. I think that he's not as physically gifted as Paris Johnson Jr. I think he's not quite as refined maybe as Broderick Jones. And I don't think he has the position versatility or necessarily the polished refinedness of Peter Skoronski. Now, with that being said, Darnell Washington is a guy with bad intentions. He is a guy that is cocky. He is a player that works so incredibly hard. He is a good pass protector. He's a good run blocker. And I think, especially over the last week or two, I have mocked into the top 10 multiple times, both to the Bears. When I did my mock draft with Broshmo, I had him going to the Bears at 9. He goes to the Bears at 10 here in the actual draft. That's another one that, kind of we knew that the Bears could potentially like him a lot. Now, I know Bears fans are going to be upset that they missed on JSN, because who wouldn't be? But this makes a lot of sense. If you're not going to get Jalen Carter, go and get the guy that you have graded as the best remaining offensive lineman. Go get that guy. And Jalen Carter is just a monster, just a game wrecker. Makes me real upset that he's not a Detroit Lion, because if he was at 12, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, I would have been so excited. But the Lions pick at 12. Darnell Wright's the pick at 10, meaning either Christian Gonzalez or Lucas Van Ness will be available at 8. Now, I'm good with either one. At this point with 12, you pick up an extra third or an extra second, a extra top 35 pick, and you still get a top 6, 7 player in the class, right? You still get cornerback 1. You still get edge rusher, it's 3, I think. I had him and Wilson like literally 6 and 7. That's an A+ move. Like that is an A+ move by Brad Holmes. It all depends on who they pick. Entirely depends on who they pick. But they're guaranteed at least one of those two guys. And Brad Holmes did it again. Brad Holmes did it again. I'm not looking at anything right now because we're waiting on the Lions. And at this point, the Lions pick could come in at any minute because we know Darnell Washington's off the board at 10 and the broadcast hasn't gotten there yet. We know not what Tennessee's going to do, but I don't want to go back to the mock draft simulator to know because I want to be genuinely surprised. This is a phenomenal pick by the Philadelphia Eagles, by the way. Like this is an A+ pick. Like you're getting the best player in the class. Like there's some risk, but you're getting the best player in the class at 10 or at 9. So really boring because we know Darnell Wright's the pick, right? I'm going to wait and like be all suspenseful. But just to kind of go through grading the top 10, because now we're officially outside the top 10, right? Bryce Young, A pick. Could not have gone better. Could not have done it better. Hard to get A+ at number 1 again, but couldn't have done much better. CJ Stroud was the right pick at 2. Again, A. Couldn't have done much better, but hard to blow away that second pick. Will Anderson at 3, A+. Phenomenal move by the Houston Texans. Could not have done it better. Like, perfect. Anthony Richardson at 4 to the Colts. I give an A. I think he's a good player. Really high upside. Great football guy. Willing to learn. Super young. Super athletic. Has the highest ceiling in the class. A pick. Again, if he manages to be like Patrick Mahomes, easy A+. But I think as far as just early gambling on the player, you got a good guy. Davon Witherspoon at 5, a little bit of a shock for sure. I think a very good player, not the best player, not my cornerback 1, but I think if you're talking like overall defensive back, it's certainly the most versatile of the top guys. I give it a B+, first non-A grade of the day, but not a bad pick by any means. The Cardinals traded up to 6, got Paris Johnson, my top tackle in the class. Very good. They gave up, a second and a first. I don't think they gave up too much value to move up. I think they got a guy to protect Kyler Murray. Good pick, A overall. For me, A+ has to be like blown away, like perfect value, like can't believe he was there. Tyree Wilson at 7. If he's healthy, it's an A+. If Tyree Wilson's medicals work out, it's an A+, because that guy should not have been there at 7. If the medicals are really that big of a concern, probably just an A. Right? He's a great football player, great football character, perfect for what Vegas needs. They needed a hit more than anybody else in this draft class. I think they got a hit, A, easy. Bijan Robinson, I think a B+ is very warranted. Best offensive player, best offensive non-quarterback in the draft, but running back in the top 10 is always going to be kind of sketchy. B+. Jalen Carter, A+. Cannot believe the best player in the class fell to number 9. I hate it, but it's unfortunately what the deal is. The Lions had their chance at 6, decided that they didn't want him. And then Darnell Wright, the pick at 10. From what I'm seeing right now, Tennessee is on the board and are going to pick right now. As far as Darnell Wright, I think a B+ is fairly solid. I think he's a very good tackle. I think I had Roger Jones better. I think he's more polished as a player. And then Peter Skoronski, I think, is maybe the best offensive lineman in this draft. And if he was a little bit bigger, I think he would have been the consensus number 3 overall pick. So, right, you draft tackle 4 at number 10. And I'm not saying that because they're the Chicago Bears. I'm saying that because that was where my pre-draft grades were. But a slight reach does not mean it's a bad pick. I think he's a good player for the culture. I think he's a good player for what you need. I think he's a good player for kind of just what the Bears like in a player, if that makes sense. So it's a good pick. I think it's a B plus culture fit kind of thing, and they did a good job. Now the Titans are on the board. Their pick is in. The Lions are on the clock for the second time tonight. I want to refresh to see what happens, but I'm afraid to refresh because I feel like the Lions are going to pick really quickly, and I don't want the pick to be spoiled until I see the name flash across the screen as Roger Goodell reads it. So that's where I'm at right now, to be totally honest. I am scared to refresh the mock draft simulator, and we will sit here through commercials, and we will make it to that 12th overall selection. Now, the Tennessee Titans, I think the obvious pick here is Will Levis, right? If you're out on Malik Willis the way that they're saying they are, if obviously Tannehill has 1 year left on his contract, which isn't ideal, and he's like in his mid-30s, not ideal. Will Levis makes a lot of sense here, but so does a guy like Quentin Johnston, I think. Quentin Johnston, big body guy, catches with his body a lot, catches with his chest a lot, but you can't deny the athletic profile. You can't deny that he's like 6'2" and is, I think, a lot faster on the field than what his field testing would say. Like, I think his RAS score wasn't quite as good as I think a lot of people thought it would be. He's a big athlete. I think could play the A.J. Brown role perfectly fine for Ryan Tannehill. If I had to guess, and I feel like I've been saying Skoronski a lot, but I feel like Skoronski for the last like 5 or 6 picks has made a lot of sense. I think it's Skoronski, Levis, or Johnston. I think it's one of those 3 players. And then the Lions are on the clock. And I don't know what the Lions are going to do. I'm excited. I'm super excited. 12th overall pick, still 2 top 10 talents on the board for me. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see what the Lions are going to do. But Tennessee's on the clock right now. Roger should be coming out any second to make the pick. The Lions are up next, obviously. Off of the, Lions have 4 minutes left, meaning they're either dealing or maybe they're just following the rules this time. I don't entirely know. I would love to know who the Titans are going to take. I think Will Levis makes the most sense, to be quite honest. I think Will Levis is a big armed quarterback. I think would fit what Tennessee really likes in the quarterback. You obviously have the run game in Tennessee early with Derrick Henry. To me, he feels like a Mike Vrabel kind of guy. It makes sense for them to go Will Levis or Peter Skoronski. I think those are your 2 likely picks, and then your wild card is going to be Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnston, I think, could fill the A.J. Brown role that they missed so dearly last year. And we're going to find out here in just a couple seconds what's going on with the Detroit Lions and the Tennessee Titans. So, Titan fans seem excited. What is going to happen? I wish the NFL would just roll through these picks. I know it's a big event, but I know for a fact Roger's standing there right now. Roger's yeah, I want to make him wait even longer. Dog, I want to know the pick. I want to know what happened. I want to know who the newest Tennessee Titan is, and I'm not even a Titans fan. Roger needs to get out on that podium right now because the Lions are on the clock. The Lions are making a selection, and I need to know who it is, and I'm not refreshing to get it spoiled for me right now. My pick would be Will Levis. I think that's who I think is going to be the pick here. Or Peter Skoronski. I think Peter Skoronski is the safe pick, the easy pick. Will Levis is the swing for the fences kind of guy. Peter Skoronski is the pick. Arguably the best offensive lineman in the class. They have him listed at guard. I have him listed as tackle. He played tackle at Northwestern, but can play any position you need him to play. The Lions have already selected. They already got their guy in mind. They know what's up. But Skoronski is the newest member of the Tennessee Titans. And I think it makes sense. The most, I think, polished prospect is the good way to put it. A little undersized like Rashawn Slater was a few years ago. But as we saw with Rashawn Slater, who went to the Pro Bowl his rookie year, size is not everything. Size doesn't always matter. And, yep, the pick is in. The Lions are selecting at 12. I've turned my phone over so nobody can text me the pick. I have refused to move the mock draft simulator because I don't want it to spoil the pick. Prayers go up. Like, prayers to the football gods as Peter Skoronsky, my 18th overall pick, goes at 11. It's one of these two. It's ideally it's Lucas Van Ness. Perfect pick for me. Lucas Van Ness right here. My 7th overall player. A+ kind of pick right here by Brad Holmes. If it's Lucas Van Ness, I could not be more excited. If it's Christian Gonzalez, I'm gonna feel a little bit hurt by Brad Holmes, not gonna lie, because I think that cornerback's really good and cornerbacks are kind of falling, right? You only have to make it till 18, and there's like 3 or 4 really good cornerbacks left. There's only 1, maybe 2 good edge rushers. If it's Van Ness, I'm going to be so incredibly happy that I not only was really high on him because I've been high on him for a couple weeks now. I'm so excited. I'm genuinely so excited for this pick. It has to be Lucas Van Ness or Christian Gonzalez. If it's Christian Gonzalez, cool. I think it's still an A pick, probably maybe even A+. But let's read Brad's body language right now. He looks a little stressed. I'm not going to lie. Everybody else looks chilling. Everybody else looks fine. Campbell looks excited. Wood look excited. All those Lion Inner Circle people that I know look excited. Wish I could be there. That'd be sweet. They need to hook me up. They, Lion Eyes and all those guys need to get me hooked up. But the 12th overall pick, come on. Be Lucas Van Ness. Be Lucas Van Ness, edge rusher from Iowa. Or Christian Gonzalez. Either one, I'm cool with. If they go like Jackson Smith-Njigba, whatever. But come on, it's got to be Lucas Van Ness. Got to be that guy. With the 12th overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. It is Jahmyr Gibbs. This is the second draft in a row I've been left speechless at the 12th overall pick because Brad Holmes decided to take a playmaker from Alabama. Now, I think, did I not have him in the first round? He is the 35th player on my board, mostly because of the running back position. But Jahmyr Gibbs is a monster. Jahmyr Gibbs could legitimately rush for 1,400 yards this season. And I think that the Detroit Lions are going to move back up in this draft class. They might move up from 18. They might move up back into the first round after 18. I don't hate the pick because I think Jahmyr Gibbs behind this offensive line is going to be fun to watch. And I think that this tells you they're very much out on DeAndre Swift. I think Swift gets moved tonight. I think Swift gets moved within the next hour. By 10:30, 10:40, I think he gets moved. I like the reaction, though. I love the reaction by Brad Holmes. Pounding the table. That's the energy that I love from my general manager. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is a good pick. Not an A+ pick. Probably like a B pick overall. If I'm being completely honest, probably a B pick. But I think he's more explosive than Bijan. I think he's faster. He's a good receiver, natural receiver. Has home run speed. And the combination of him and Montgomery behind this offensive line is going to be incredibly lethal. Now, the Lions have 5 picks to go. Okay. Jahmyr Gibbs, 34th on PFF, 35 for me. I don't hate it. I really, really don't hate it. Right? Because I think the Lions did enough in free agency where you can argue hey, we don't need anything. And Jahmyr Gibbs is probably the biggest playmaker left on the board. Would they have taken Bijan Robinson if he was there at 12? I don't know. I think that's a very good question. I'd love to know about it. And yes, Ryan, we do have David Montgomery, and we do have DeAndre Swift. The Lions should rush for 150 yards a game at this point. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. As I said, the second year in a row that at the 12th overall pick exactly, I have been shocked by an explosive playmaker from Alabama. This year, however, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to play. Like, Sports Reference, and this is just kind of where I get a lot of my stats, because I think this is a good website. It's, presented very well. 5'11", 200 pounds, 926 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground, 195 touches and 1,300 yards altogether with 10 combined touchdowns. A home run hitter, Jahmyr, I'm going to learn how to spell that, Gibbs, R-A-S. I don't know if he participated in the combine, but I'll tell you exactly why the Lions drafted him. That number right there. Well, really these 3 numbers in the statistics. But these 2 numbers specifically, the acceleration, the burst, and the long speed, oh my goodness. Like, yeah, we need a defense. Yeah, we need pass rushers. Yeah, we need cornerbacks, but I don't hate Jahmyr Gibbs. I really, really don't. Like, he's kind of like the Jameson Williams at running back. And now you have 2 playmakers, 2 4-3 or faster guys on your team. You have the playmakers. You have the home run threat, something we've been lacking for a long time in Detroit is that home run ability. Now you have it at running back. By week 7, you're going to have it at wide receiver. And Brad Holmes is giving Jared Goff all the toys. He's giving him the keys. He's giving him a Ferrari. And he's like, hey, go drive me to the Super Bowl, man. And I think Jared Goff can do that. Packers are on the board. JSN is the popular pick here. I thought they pulled up a graphic of the Aaron Rodgers trade, and it was the Jets and Packers, and it said trade. And I thought it was that they traded back, like they swapped picks back. And I was like, that would have been crazy. But no, it's just the Aaron Rodgers trade. So the Packers are on the board at 13. The easy pick here, I think, is Jackson Smith and Jigba, right? Give Jordan Love a playmaker. Give him another good wide receiver. Give him another good weapon next to Christian Watson. But with that being said, if it's not JSN, I think it's going to be Brian Branch from Alabama. They need help at safety. They're getting older in the secondary. They've gone secondary a lot over the last couple of years in the first round. Hey, there's Ben. I know that guy. The photographer taking pictures of Roger Goodell in the background. I know that guy. That's my cousin. But anyway, with the 13th overall pick, the Green Bay Packers. Oh my God, no. They got Lucas Van Ness. I'm a little hurt. I'm a little hurt right now. Lucas Van Ness, I think, is Aiden Hutchinson 2.0. I've said it at the top of the draft. I said it going through the draft. I said it at pick 12. This kid is going to be so incredibly good in the NFL. My 7th overall player. Oh, man. This is the most hurt I've been in the draft so far. I don't like it. Like, I get it. I'm jumbling my words because I'm going through a lot of emotions right now. I don't dislike the Gibbs pick, but I hate, and I don't use the word hate lightly, I hate that Lucas Van Ness is a Green Bay Packer. I hate that we're going to have to block him. I hate that we're going to have to run against him. I am so genuinely like sick to my stomach because I think Green Bay just got Aiden Hutchinson. Now, the New England Patriots are on the board at 15. I think this is Zay Flowers. I think that this is Zay Flowers. They've been talking about him pretty much all offseason. They went to either the Senior or the Shrine Bowl, wherever Zay Flowers was for his All-Star game, and everybody from the Patriots interviewed him. Everybody from the Patriots media came out and talked to him. He's been linked for a long time, but they're going to trade the pick. Maybe they feel like Zay Flowers is going to fall a little bit. If this is the Lions jumping up, oh, it's the Steelers. Interesting. I think this is a tackle. I think this is Broderick Jones. I think this is Broderick Jones pretty easily. I actually can't trade because PFF decided that they didn't want us to have fun. So I'm going to refresh and hope that another pick isn't spoiled for us. But if it is, oh well. I'll take it really, really slowly just in case. Jahmyr Gibbs, Lucas Van Ness, and Pittsburgh is on the clock. Okay. The Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock. And the available players left are not great for them. They need linebacker. They could use defensive back. But I don't think it's a very well-kept secret that they need a tackle. I think Broderick Jones is the last first-round tackle in this draft. First-round talent at tackle in this class. And I think Pittsburgh knows that they need him. They traded up. It doesn't say they gave up 17, but I would assume that they did. This has to be Broderick Jones. If it's not Broderick Jones, it could be Joey Porter Jr., but I would be willing to bet pretty good money that this is going to be Broderick Jones, the offensive tackle from Georgia. The best first round, well, the best tackle left, the only first round tackle left, in my opinion. My tackle 3, I believe, on my board. My tackle 2. My tackle number 2, and it is Broderick Jones. Oh no, they're just showing Broderick Jones in the thing. It had his name. They have not officially selected him yet, but I would assume that is who the pick is going to be. It's where the cameras went. It's where I went. He is my second graded offensive tackle in the class. Now, to be fair, there was not a whole lot that separated these 4, but after these 4, there's a big gap. So it doesn't surprise me that they traded down. A lot of Pittsburgh fans want Joey Porter, but I would be shocked. I would be bamboozled if it was not Broderick Jones of the Georgia Bulldogs. The pick includes 17 and a 2023 fourth-round pick, the 120th selection overall for Pittsburgh to move up 3 spots in order to go and get their player. Now, 17 is still very much realistic range for Zay Jones for the Patriots if that's the route they continue to want to go. Oh, the Lucas Van Ness thing hurts me. The Lucas Van Ness thing really, really hurts me because I wanted him to be a Detroit Lion so incredibly badly. But he's a Packer. Jahmyr Gibbs is a Lion. I like it. I don't love it, but I like it. B pick. B. Considering you got the 35th pick as well, B+. Considering you got the 35th overall pick and still got a guy that obviously you're very high on, a B+ pick for the Detroit Lions, including the trade value. Pittsburgh's pick is in. We are waiting on that pick specifically. There's some good players left for sure. Offensive tackle makes a lot of sense. If it's not Broderick Jones, like I said, I think it's JPJ. I think it's Penn State's Joey Porter Jr. But we're going to find out what happens here. Pittsburgh's on the clock with the 14th overall pick, the 2023 NFL Draft. The Pittsburgh Steelers select Broderick Jones. I read Roger Goodell's lips as he said it. Broderick Jones, offensive tackle from Georgia, the right pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Protect Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett has the talent. George Pickens has the receiving ability. You can't maximize that ability if you're on the ground. So you get Broderick Jones. who's flexing his national championship ring at the draft right now. And I think you get a really good tackle. 6'5" and 3/8, 311 pounds. I think moves pretty well for his size, has really good hands and footwork. Just overall, I think a really good player. I think gives a lot of effort on every play. Has a high motor, which is something I really like for sure. Is a good swing guy, like gets out and gets to the second level to linebackers, to DBs, and opens up the running game tremendously. Moves really well laterally, really well vertically. Kind of just the solid pick, right? Not flashy, not like the Paris Johnson with the freakish traits, not the, Darnell Wright with the mean attitude and kind of has that storyline going. Like Broderick Jones is probably the least talked about player, and he is somehow probably the second or maybe even the best. Now the Lions have 3 picks to survive until Christian Gonzalez is at the 18th overall selection. And if he's there, like he's that guy. He has to be. I don't think updated Broderick Jones. Broderick Jones was my 15th player. They traded up to 14 to get him. Almost perfect value off my board. Works for me. Christian Gonzalez, the 8th overall player on my board, is still available. I'm not quite sure what the slide is for. I've had a lot of people, not a lot, but a couple people that I trust their opinions tell me like, hey, he's a little rawer than you might think. But a guy that's 6'2" is like a really, really good athlete, has good ball skills, has good instincts. Like there's no way that guy should be available at 15. It'd be pretty wild if the Jets took him. That'd be pretty crazy. I don't know what the Jets do here. There's no tackle left. It might be Anton Harrison. That might be the deal. I think that would be a reach, but I also get it, right? You have to get the best tackle remaining. And I don't know. It's an interesting question. They got Aaron Rodgers, so Will Levis is out. Could you see them add Jackson Smith-Njigba? I don't think that's a bad option, right? You add him to a receiving core with Garrett Wilson, his former teammate, who we outproduced at Ohio State. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is a decent option here at 15, probably the perfect range for Jackson Smith-Njigba. Maybe Kitnick if you want to give Aaron Rodgers a weapon that's not at receiver. Christian Gonzalez potentially, even though I think DJ Reed played really well on the boundary last year for the Jets. Did get cooked by Jameson Williams, though. Jared Goff just didn't connect with it. Nolan Smith, good leader. Kalijah Kancey, a good interior disruptor, but I don't think they'll go there. Safety could be really interesting, right? Continue to add to that secondary that was really good a season ago. Continue to build up that defense. I think the most ironic part about this draft right now is Aaron Rodgers is going to end up with Jackson Smith-Njigba. He is going to end up with that Ohio State weapon, which is what a lot of Packers fans wanted Jordan Love to get. I think the Jets, they've put in way too much to make him happy. They didn't get OBJ, which is what Aaron Rodgers wanted. So I wouldn't be shocked if this pick is Jackson Smith-Njigba. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a ton of sense. We have 3 minutes, 48 seconds left. Looks like they're on the phone with somebody. But as of right now, Mel's big board has Will Levis at 1, Christian Gonzalez at 2, Nolan Smith at 3, Zay Flowers at 4, and Jackson Smith at 5 as your top 5 prospects remaining on the board. As far as my board goes, I have Christian Gonzalez 1, Jackson 2, Deontay 3, Nolan 4, and Zay Flowers 5. So my board is pretty similar up there. I have Will Levis significantly lower than a lot of people. I have him as the 24th prospect in this class. I don't think Will Levis is like all that good, to be totally honest, but it's kind of evident with the slide because a lot of people thought he was going to go top 5 and he's just not. Wow, the Jahmyr Gibbs thing still throws me for a loop, but like I get it. I really, really get it. The elite speed, the elite contact balance. Like this is a guy that could be Alvin Kamara with 4.3 speed. Like that's his ceiling. Kool-Aid and Cornbread channel member in the building. Love to see it. says, what do you think about the Lions pick? I apologize for not seeing that right away. I am torn because I really wanted Van Ness. I really wanted Christian Gonzalez, who's actually still on the board. But I also kind of get it, right? You get a dynamic playmaker. I think this has a couple implications, right? DeAndre Swift is gone. DeAndre Swift will not be a member of the Lions by Saturday morning. I refuse to believe that. I think that you're going to go into the season with Monty and Gibbs as your 1-2 punch. Monty's going to be kind of the between the tackles guy, and Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be probably the early down guy that gets outside stretches and is going to get like 150 yards off of like 8 carries because he's just so explosive, and he's going to be the receiving back. He's the DeAndre Swift that's a little bit easier and a little bit more reliable for health. He's a faster, more explosive, healthier DeAndre Swift. And the Lions felt like their board was in a good place where they could afford to pass on Van Ness. They could afford to pass on Gonzalez, right? And risk him falling to 18 even. And they took, I think, the most explosive playmaker left, right? And maybe, arguably, the most explosive playmaker in the draft, right? You're talking about a guy with 4.3 speed and elite quickness. Like Anthony Richardson's probably the most explosive quarterback. But if we're talking non-quarterbacks, like he's more explosive than Bijan Robinson. He's a more explosive player. And he's the only other skill player to go. I think it's actually really odd that we saw 2 running backs before any wide receiver. But I think Jahmyr Gibbs is the most explosive player in this draft. At least for like from the offensive non-quarterbacking position. So I get it. I can't say I wasn't shocked by the pick, but you're making me feel better. I was stunned. I don't know the timestamp because I wasn't taking a look. If you go back to when they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, for the second year in a row, I froze. For the second year in a row, the Lions picked the 12th overall picked a playmaker out of Alabama, and I was speechless, which I am not speechless very often. But at the same time, I think the Lions have the luxury to do that, funnily enough, which is a weird thing to say because you're like, hey, you could have got Jalen Carter. You could have got Christian Gonzalez. You could have got, this player or that player on the defense to help you, but you got the most explosive playmaker in the class. For the second year in a row, you got the most explosive player in the draft. If Gonzalez isn't there at 18, I think we go Kancey. I don't think we go Kalijah Kancey. I think Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell need somebody that's going to stop the run, somebody that's going to stand up and be a mauler in the run game. I don't think that's Kalijah Kancey. I know it's not Kalijah Kancey. It's just not. I think if Christian Gonzalez is there, he has to be the pick. If not, I think Keanu Benton or Mozzie Smith has a higher chance of going over Kalijah Kancey, especially for the Lions in particular. And I'm referring to Caleb Mackley's comment because I think that, Kalijah Kancey's a one-dimensional player. He's a great pass rusher. He's a really good pass rusher. Wouldn't not shocked at all necessarily. But I think Brad Holmes loves the run stoppers. Brad Holmes loves the big guys up front. He loves the beef. He loves the, pause. He loves the power, the size at the defensive line position. And that's not Kalijah Kancey. It's never been Kalijah Kancey. It's never going to be Kalijah Kancey. And I think if Kancey went anywhere but Pittsburgh, he'd be an early second-round pick. Now, the fact that he went to Pittsburgh, he's going to get compared to Aaron Donald. Undersized guy, productive pass rusher, he's going to get compared. But if he didn't go to Pittsburgh, I think he's a second-round pick at best. Now, the Jets are on the clock. I don't know who the Jets are going to take here. Jackson Smith-Njigba makes a lot of sense here. So we'll see what happens. Roger Goodell's announcing it with the 15th over. He's probably giving a speech. This kid's probably going to announce it. He's showing the cameras, but he's waving it too much for us to see. Come on. I bet if we paused it, we could read the card, which would be really funny. But we will have to wait and see. Nothing important yet from my phone. Just wanted to check it really quickly. It's turned away from me, so nothing is spoiled. I don't want anything to spoil any of these draft picks because I want genuine reactions and genuine kind of interaction. So, little kid is up to speak. Probably a cool experience for him. With the 15th overall pick, the Jets select in the 2023 NFL Draft. I have no idea. They're not showing it. Show me the pick. Come on. Did he give a speech? Okay, with the 15th overall pick in the class of 2023, the New York Jets select. I like the energy. I like the hype from this kid. Respectable. He's shaking, but I get that. It's scary. Ooh, Will McDonald. Will McDonald, linebacker, really pass rusher from Iowa State. I like this kid. This kid's got energy. I like this guy a lot. Cool guy. You could see his hands shaking when he was reading the card, but I don't blame him. It's nerve-wracking up there, especially in front of all those people. Will McDonald, huh? All right. Okay. I see it. Will McDonald to the Jets. They're adding a pass rusher. They're adding a good pass rusher. I find it odd Nolan Smith hasn't been selected yet, but I think the injury could be a big part of that. And I think I just saw the 16th overall pick by Washington, but I'm not entirely sure. But which would be sweet because then New England would not take a cornerback and we can get Christian Gonzalez at 18, which would be freaking awesome. But no, Will McDonald's very good. I had him, I think, right at the end of the first round. In my mock draft this morning, I had him at 31. And in my... Did I really not have him that high? I had Will McDonald at 52. That's wrong. I'm sorry. That is incorrect. Maybe not. But he's a very good player. Like the player you're getting in the NFL, I think, is better than the player you're getting at Iowa State. I don't think Iowa State used him very good in the Big 12. He didn't really get a whole lot of opportunities to rush the passer in the Big 12, at least not from like a true edge position. And that's what he's going to have. He's going to have opportunities to be a true edge rusher in this class. So that is incredibly interesting. We are 2 hours into this draft. Really quickly, I'm going to take just a quick break. I will be right back for the Commanders pick. If it gets picked before, I think I saw Emmanuel Forbes, which would be crazy, but I'm not entirely sure. So I'll be right back. Just give me like a few moments. Okay, I'm back. They haven't picked yet, but like I said, I think I saw Emmanuel Forbes, which would shock me a lot because like it's Emmanuel Forbes. I had him not bad, but I had him as a mid-second round player. And Christian Gonzalez had as a top 10 player. So if they pass on him for that, I'd be really surprised. But I mean, I'm not gonna talk too much about him unless he is drafted, but good football player, not a bad player, just I don't think a top 20, top 16 player in the class. So there is that. I would be really, really shocked. Maybe I saw maybe I misread it, or like I only saw the top of the letters, but it looked like an EE. So I'm not gonna put it in yet because we don't know. Oh, just kidding. It scrolled down for me. It is Emmanuel Forbes. Well, that pick got kind of ruined. That's okay. Emmanuel Forbes is the selection. I had Emmanuel Forbes graded as the I had him graded as the 7th cornerback in this class. And yes, I counted with the rankings right next to it. I had him graded as the 7th corner. And he goes above Cam Smith, Keely Ringo, Joey Porter, Deontay Banks, and Christian Gonzalez. Apparently, the Commanders had him graded as the 2nd best cornerback in the draft. Apparently, that is the case. A little bit odd for me, but whatever. It feels similar to a Jahan Dotson pick, and I think a lot of people are going to look at it and be like, "Yeah, that's just not good value." I don't think that Emmanuel Forbes is a bad football player. I think overall on the board, there's no way I had Forbes in the 3rd. Nope, definitely missed him in the 2nd. Sidney Brown, Emmanuel Forbes. Okay, that's probably where I expected him. 41st overall. 41st overall player in this draft. Led the nation in pick sixes. I think actually holds the college football record for pick sixes in a career and in a season. Ball hawk, turns the football over a ton. I think the best way to put it is some of his picks are a little lucky. I think he does get beat quite a bit, but makes up for that while turning the football over better than almost anybody in this draft. But when you watch Emmanuel Forbes, it's a peaks and valleys type of deal, right? It is a very much, which side note, the Patriots aren't going to take a corner. So the Lions might get Christian Gonzalez, which would be crazy. Where do I have Hendon Hooker? I have Hendon Hooker. Ready for this? Bottom of the 2nd round. I don't like the age. I don't like the injury. I don't love the deep accuracy. I don't like the offense that he played in. I don't like the fact that he's not going to be ready. He's probably not going to play until he's 27. Jared Goff is 29 right now, which means we have 2 years until we're talking about replacing him, which seems really odd as Emmanuel Forbes officially goes off the board on the ESPN screen. I don't love it. I think there's a ton, and I mean a ton of red flags with Hendon Hooker. I like his release. I like his leadership. I think his maturity is very good. His decision-making is good. If I didn't already say, his release is really good. His deep balls hit or miss, but when you're throwing 12 deep balls a game, you're going to hit and miss. I just think there's a lot of red flags. And he's down here with like Brian Brzee, who's another guy that people have going in the top 10. I'm not a big fan of Brian Brzee either. But Hendon Hooker, just to kind of keep on the topic of your question, is I think a very high floor, low ceiling quarterback. I don't think he's going to be better than Jared Goff in his career. So that is concerning. Yeah, his maturity, I think, is definitely a good thing. His decision-making is a very good thing. Accuracy is solid at all levels, but I don't think is like elite at any level, which I've argued with a lot of people who say that Hendon Hooker's deep accuracy is elite and the best in this class. It is not. It is not. I think best accuracy deep is probably Anthony Richardson, or I mean, CJ Stroud overall is like really accurate deep down the field, but no, Hendon Hooker's deep accuracy is not all that good. The ACL tear is concerning. The age is obviously concerning, but I think the biggest red flag is the Tennessee offense that he played in. Right, the fact that he's probably going to be 27 by the time he's ready to play in the NFL, from the injury standpoint and the schematic standpoint and the learning standpoint that he has to go through. And if we're talking about replacing a quarterback at 29 who's Jared Goff, right, we would be talking about the same thing by the time Hooker's contract is up, right? He'll be 26 by the time he hits the field, 26 as a rookie, 27 as a sophomore, 28 as a third-year player, and 29 as his rookie contract expires. Now, if you take him in the first round, you have that fifth-year option to make him a 30-year-old quarterback on a rookie contract. That is incredible. I'm so upset that the Patriots just took Christian Gonzalez off the board. Ouch, that hurt. I did not expect that. I did not think they would. Great pick by the Patriots there. Puts the Lions back on the clock. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Hendon Hooker. Like, I think he's a fine plug and play quarterback. I think he's like a good situation for the Minnesota Vikings, who will probably play like relatively similar to Kirk Cousins. But yeah, so Welp, Christian Gonzalez is off the board. I'm not going to refresh it. I'm not going to take that risk. So with that being said, I'm really scared this is going to be Quentin Johnston. And I really don't want it to be Quentin Johnston. If you're going to go wide receiver, go JSN. Like, even go Zay Flowers. I would even take Dalton Kitnick or like Darnell Washington over that. Christian Gonzalez was the guy. Like, I mean, he was the only top 10 prospect left on the board. Will Levis is left. I wouldn't take Will Levis at 18, although I would kind of get it if they do. Wouldn't love it. Would really like JSN. I think he's really good. I mean, he's an Amon-Ra St. Brown clone, right? He's somewhere between like early Jarvis Landry and, Amon-Ra Cooper Kupp. That's a good football player who I would take on my team. Kitnick, I think, has like Travis Kelce level upside. Nolan Smith makes a lot of sense here. I genuinely wouldn't be shocked if it was Nolan Smith. The leadership is there. The upside is there. The athletic ability is there. Wouldn't be shocked. And is as good against the run as you have to be at Georgia. What about the tight ends? I would not like a tight end, but I'd also kind of get it, right? Like, you get offensive weapons for Jared Goff and your next future quarterback. They're showing Will Levis. I don't like that they're showing Will Levis. I actually really dislike that they're showing Will Levis. That scares me. It should not be Levis. It should not be Johnston. If it's any or Breeze or any of the other guys that I've notably not liked in this process, if it's Levis, I will not like it. If it's JSN, I will like it. If it's Kitnick, I'll be indifferent, like a C plus, B minus. Nolan Smith, I think, is like a solid B. Kalijah Kancey, probably a B plus. I think arguably the best playmaker left on the board defensively, at least from like a pass rushing standpoint. Myles Murphy could make some sense too. I wouldn't be upset with Myles Murphy. I know there's a lot of people that are down on him, but very recently I've been told, and I knew about like the defensive coordinator leaving Clemson this year. But I've been told that, if you go back to 2021 or, not last season, but the season before, every Clemson player looks significantly better. And I've been told that Myles Murphy looks like a top 10 pick in those years with an actual real good defensive coordinator that puts him in positions to make plays. So if Myles Murphy is the pick here, I'm cool with it. I think that's probably your best option right now. That's probably the only A pick that you're going to get. Banks, I think, would be a good pick. Porter Jr. would be a good pick. Not Quentin Johnston. Not Quentin Johnston. I would be so mad. Torrance, probably a little bit of a reach, but at 18, not like awful value. I think this is where you could see Mozzie Smith coming off the board, potentially. I just want good value here. This is a bad position to be in. I wouldn't even be mad if the Lions trade this pick away and move down a couple more spots, because I know they've had calls about doing that. I would probably like if they trade down with like Minnesota and can get like an extra second or third, that could be pretty cool. But they're not. The pick is in. I don't know who it's going to be. Ideally, I'd say Myles Murphy is my 1. JSN is probably my 2. I think Brian Branch could make some sense, or same with Deontay Banks or Joey Porter Jr. I think corner makes some sense. Defensive line like Mozzie Smith or Keanu Benton makes a lot of sense here. If it's Levis, if it's a tight end, or if it's Johnston, I'm not going to be happy. I could see Kalijah Kancey for sure. I think Kalijah Kancey would make some sense. Good interior pass rusher. I know I've been very down on Kalijah Kancey this whole process, but I mean, I have him at 22. So if you take him at 18, like that's well within the range of Kalijah Kancey of where I think he could and should go. I expect him to be anywhere from 18 to like 25 is where I expect Kalijah to be. drafted at. And I think 18, like slightest little reach, but best pass rusher, his best interior pass rusher left. Knowing Brad Holmes the way that I know my general manager, I have no idea what's going to happen. But based on what we've done in the past, based on what we've done the last 2 seasons, this is probably going to be best player available. And it would be the first draft of Brad Holmes' career where he didn't address defensive line in the first round. That being said, I think it's Cansey, Smith, or Murphy. I think it's one of the 3. And I don't think any of the 3 would be a bad pick necessarily. Now, if I had to rank them, I'd go Murphy at 1. I know that Murphy had a down year last year, but defensive scheme changes always mess with players. And then you have, just not putting their players in the best positions. Nolan Smith is an option at edge for sure. I think I like Murphy a little bit better, but Nolan Smith makes a lot of sense from the leadership standpoint, from the hey, he's really good versus the run. He's a great leader on and off the field. Perfect culture guy for Dan Campbell, and is just gonna be a good player on day one. My options now. Miles Murphy, I think, is the best pick. I think Miles Murphy's the best pick. I think probably Nolan Smith second, Kalijah Cansey third, Mozzie Smith third, Kalijah Cansey fourth. Will Levis looks way too smug for this. I'm going to cry. But before Will Levis is the pick, if he is the selection, which I think he is, unfortunately, I think the Lions are in a position to make him succeed. I think the Lions are in a position to turn him into a good quarterback if that is possible. Because they have the line, they have the receivers, they have the weapons, now they have the defense. If it's Will Levis, I won't like it, but I'll understand it. I hope it's an edge rusher. Crossing my fingers. Everything's turned off. There's no spoilers. Oh, please don't be Will Levis. Please, 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 Roger. If it's Will Levis, you can change it on the fly. I do not care. Please don't be Will Levis. Not even that the value is that bad at this point, because like I said, he's 24. Like a 6-pick gap is not the worst thing. Oh, with the 18th overall pick in the 2023 NFL draft, the Detroit Lions select. Who is it going to be? Ooh. Okay. Jack Campbell, linebacker out of Iowa. The William V. Campbell Trophy winner, academic Heisman, for those of you that don't know. He also won the award for best linebacker in the nation. Interesting. I'm not going to lie. I'm not in love with this draft class yet, but I certainly don't hate it. Okay. So we're going to go Jack Campbell RAS score, because he's a good athlete. RAS scores. Relative athletic score. I do not hate it, but I'm not loving it. So we're gonna go Campbell. That would be Jack, the best, most athletic Campbell ever. I'm mixed because I don't love linebacker and running back in the first round. I think positional value wise, we've failed, but we got 2 really good football players. Jack Campbell, 6'5". We'll go over the athletic stuff first, right? 998 athletic score, real good, real good. 6'4.5", 249. You know, 4.6 speed as a 6'5 linebacker is fine. I think the 10-yard split is almost exactly like a 0.03 seconds different from Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, which is like a lot, but for a guy that runs 4.3 versus 4.6, like Jet Campbell moves quickly. Jet Campbell gets to the right spot at the right time. But he's not like the long speed type of linebacker. Now, his shuttle speed was really good. His explosiveness grade was good. His agility grade was elite. His size grade was elite. His speed grade was great. A 9.98 athletic score, 31-inch arms. That is almost the same size as Aiden Hutchinson, I believe. Good hand size and a super productive linebacker. Again, feels like a culture guy that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell would love to have. You know, last season, 125 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, a sack, 2 interceptions, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery, 1 pass defended, 1 pick, or 2 picks, excuse me. And I think I actually did take 1 back for a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken, but maybe not. Yeah, in his career, almost 300 tackles, 12.5 TFLs, 5 picks over the last 3 years. I get it. I don't know if I love it. Ooh, okay. All right. I trust Brad, and I think the Lions are in a position to gamble a little bit. Is he really not a top whatever prospect? No way. Wow. Top 39 overall prospect. The Buccaneers end up taking Kalijah Kancey with the next pick. Not a bad pick by them at all. I think right within the talent range of where Kancey belongs. Oh, okay. And of course, the Aaron Donald comps come back out. He's quick. He's got good hand usage. Not a run stopper, though. In Brad, we trust. In Brad, we do. In Brad, we do trust. I'm happy it wasn't Will Levis at the very least. I'm happy the Lions weren't the ones to fall for the quarterback Will Levis trap. Kalijah Kancey at 19 makes a lot of sense. Quick interior pass rusher. Jack Campbell, huh? So you get an offensive playmaker. You get a defensive playmaker. I get the feeling Brad's not done. I get the feeling Brad is not done cooking. Because I don't know what he's cooking, to be honest. Like, and I'm not like trying to be funny. Like, I know I'm making jokes, but I don't know. It's just a very odd way to approach the draft, right? Because you look Lions depth chart, right? What did you need coming in, right? Like if the draft simply didn't happen, where would you be at fault? Oh, they even have Jahmyr Gibbs in here already. Do they have Campbell in too? I don't believe so. Nope. Which is fine. It's too early. Right? Your quarterback's good. You're not going to replace your quarterback this year. Your running backs were fine. Like you didn't need a running back, but adding Jahmyr Gibbs is not going to hurt you. Jameson Williams, Marvin Jones, Amon St. Brown, Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, and Tom Kennedy are a fine receiving group. You might want to, but you don't need to address it. Tight end is deep and pretty good. You're not going to get a fullback, obviously. Your offensive line is rock solid, and by this point, you're not gonna take Anton Harrison. He's not worth a first round pick. Pass rush maybe, but if Josh Pascal hits where he's supposed to be next year, if Romeo Okwara returns to form, if Levi comes back healthy, if Julian comes back healthy, if Kaminsky's back, which he is, Taylor can develop, like Hutchinson, Buggs, Aleem. We have James Houston up here who's really good and is a pass rusher. Who's not he's a linebacker, but he's like a pass rushing linebacker. Very different from Barnes. I have have no idea why they have Chase Lucas as the starting cornerback for the Lions right now. It seems really odd, but whatever. Like, my point was, you didn't need anything, but you could certainly get better at positions. So at 12, you don't love Jalen Carter. That's fine, right? You get down to 12, and I think Lucas Van Ness would have been the perfect A+ pick, but you might not trust that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to make it to 18. So you take the biggest, most explosive playmaker in this draft for the second year in a row. This time he's going to play as a rookie. And then, you miss out on, Van Ness, you miss out on Broderick. I don't think that these two guys were on the Lions' radar super closely. You miss on Gonzalez, which would have been ideal. But, then you get Jack Campbell, who is, I think, my linebacker 1. I had him as a first-round pick. Kind of. I had him as the 32nd overall player in this draft. And I had him as the linebacker 1. Technically, 32 is a second-round pick. But I had him as linebacker 1. So you get linebacker 1, and you get the most explosive offensive player in the draft. That's not a quarterback. It's not a bad draft. Now, I think they still need a field stretcher. I still think they need a pass rusher because, next year, Okwara's gone, and Jones is gone, and the other Okwara is gone, and Harris is gone. So you're going to be down to basically Pascal, Hutch, Kaminsky as your 3 edge rushers alone. And obviously James Houston. So you have 4 real edge rushers, and then Kaminsky can kick inside, or Levi can kick outside if he's healthy. So I think a pass rusher, primarily an edge rusher, is certainly in need. Pass rusher, cornerback, and a field stretching wide receiver. The 3 things we came into the draft needing. But since no wide receiver's been drafted yet this year, obviously nobody's very high on the wide receivers. So that's got to wait, and that's going to fall to the second round and be a good option. The pass rushers are there, but there's a lot of good pass rushers left, right? You go to D-line, Mozzie Smith's going to be there. Keanu Benton looks like he's going to be there. 2 guys that I think are really good defensive linemen, worthy of first-round picks if they end up falling to the Lions. And then you go, edge rusher, Smith is still there. Murphy's still there. You have Felix Aduka Uzoma, who's still there. You have Tui Pelotu. BJ Ojolari, wore 18 at LSU, could be a good culture guy. Keanu White could be a good guy for, second, maybe third-round pass rusher. He's actually at the draft right now. You have Byron Rung, KJ Henry. So, the pass rushers are still there. There's still an opportunity at pass rusher. You look at corner, you still have Banks, Porter, Smith, 3 guys I have first-round grades on, as well as Ringo, 4 guys I have first-round grades on. So you can afford to maybe not go right there right away. And then wide receiver. So all of the positions we needed outside of a pass rusher are falling. And even pass rushers like Smith, like Murphy, are falling down the board a little bit. Now, Murphy, I think, was because of his poor play last year. Nolan Smith, I think, is because of the injury concerns. But, you look at the biggest needs, and 12, running back at 12 might not be great value positionally, right? Linebacker at 18 might not be good positional value. But what do you need? Right? What position are you going to be like, hey, we need to walk out with that guy? I don't think there is one, right? So there's good wide receivers left. There's good pass rushers left. There's good cornerbacks left. And those are the things you need. Those are the things that you have draft needs for. And you have 3 picks in the second round, right? You might even package Swift in that 35th to move up into the first round. Who knows? With Jahmyr Gibbs, I expect DeAndre Swift to be traded any minute by this point. But, you go into the second round, and Porter and Banks might make it to the second. Ringo's probably going to go second round. Addison is going to go probably in the second round at this point. Quentin Johnston, apparently I wasn't so crazy for not being very high on Quentin Johnston. Mozzie Smith's going to be there in the second round. Josh Downs is going to potentially be there in the second round. Tank Dell even though I'm not like the highest on gadget players, he runs routes, he's got speed, he can stretch the field for sure. Hyatt's going to be there again, not high on Hyatt because of the Tennessee offense and the limited route tree that he ran, but the guy clocked in at like 23 miles an hour against Alabama. Like that guy can stretch the field. Benton, Ojulari, like even Keon White, Cedric Tillman, Clark Phillips, like Ringo and Brents are going to be there. Darius Rush is going to be there. Corey Price shot up boards. Wow. Mingo's going to be there probably in the second round, if not like the third round that a lot of people are saying. There's so many guys left, and I think the Lions got the guys that they felt best about at the top of their board. I think they graded them as football players, and I think they got two very good football players, right? They're not getting worse with Jack Campbell and Jahmyr Gibbs. And yeah, you could say like 4.6 is slow for a linebacker. 4.6 is not very slow for a linebacker. And he's got quickness more than speed. He gets to the spot on time because, well, quite frankly, he's just very technically refined as a football player. Seahawks are on the board at 20. The pick is in before we go to Chargers at 21 or 20. Yeah, 21 should be 22. But the Miami Dolphins forfeited a first-round pick. They have the youth football players out there right now behind Roger. What does Seattle do? Jackson Smith-Njigba makes a lot of sense here, right? I mean, kind of pairing him up, giving Geno Smith time to throw, giving Geno Smith weapons to throw to, right? Makes a lot of sense. So let's see. With the 20th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Jackson Smith-Njigba, wide receiver from Ohio State. I'm kind of killing it tonight. But yeah, Jackson Smith-Njigba, super productive at Ohio State, suffered through a lot of injuries last year. But when you're a guy on the Ohio State roster with battling time and battling obviously for targets and possession with Chris Olave, who went 11 or went 10 even, Chris Olave went 11. Garrett Wilson went 10. For a while, he was competing with Jameson Williams, who went 12 last year. Marvin Harrison Jr., who's going to go top 5 next year, more than likely. And then Emmanuel Ebukam, Ebukam, the second or like the 6th first-round wide receiver at Ohio State last year, 2 years ago. He was the best. He was the most productive with all of those guys on the roster. Had 1,600 receiving yards last year. Or not last year. Last year he played, 2 years ago. He's incredible. He's a phenomenal route runner. He's so good at leverage. He has good hands. Like, he's got yak ability. He reminds me of, an Amon-Ra St. Brown, a Cooper Kupp, a Jarvis Landry, even with a little bit more speed over the top. Like, he tracks the ball well. He has good hands. He runs really good routes. Like, he should not have been at 20, but he's not the 20th best player in this class. He's far better than that. But he goes off the board here. My 12th overall player. I don't think I've been keeping up with this super close. Kalijah Kancey came off the board to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jack Campbell, Jahmyr Gibbs. They got picks 30 and 35 for me, which isn't great value, but isn't awful. Deonte Banks is the best player left on my board. The Lions don't have another first-round pick tonight, but could very well trade up. They have the assets to do so. And if they don't trade back up, I'm just going to go they hold the 34th pick. They hold 34, 48, and 55. Did they end up getting rid of 81 somewhere? Did they end up giving 81 to Arizona? Arizona Cardinals. They did. I don't like that pick as much now. I don't love that. I don't love that at all. You give up 6 and 81 for 12 in 35. I guess I don't hate it. Like the value is there. They jumped from 81 to 34. Like that's a pretty significant jump from the back end of the third round to the very start of the second round is a pretty big jump to drop 6 spots. I don't hate it. I don't like it as much, but I don't hate it. So they have 3 picks in the second round now. The Chargers are on the clock. Interesting. I think this is going to be a class that isn't going to look good necessarily until it's done. Right? Last year, it was kind of a similar thing, right? Where it was like, hey, we need a safety really bad. We need a pass rusher really bad. We need, defensive line help really bad. And it's like, oh, we didn't get our safety until 97. But once we got our safety at 97, we got it looked really good, right? Hutchinson was good. Kirby was good. And then we hit on the late round picks, which is what we've been good at doing over the last couple of years. I think Campbell and Gibbs were safe picks. I think they were right picks. I think they were good picks. Maybe not, what you were expecting coming in, right? Linebacker and running back in round 1 for a guy that has loved positional value seems wild, but crazier things have happened. I'm talking about all the wide receivers to be taken from Ohio State over the last 2 seasons. Marvin Harrison's going to join them next year and be the highest of all of them, which is insane. But we are now at pick 31. Now, I'm not entirely sure what is going to happen next, but I'm kind of excited to see. So the Chargers pick is officially in, and we should start rolling through these a little bit quicker. I wouldn't be surprised, actually, if not necessarily here at 21. Will Levis is standing. I mean, he's not going to be a Charger, obviously, but like, I wouldn't be shocked if they went like, oh, we'll give you 34 in what, DeAndre Swift. They don't even have Montgomery on here. Like, hey, we'll give you Swift and a 34 and go up and get like Miles Murphy, or we'll go up and get like Joey Porter or whoever, right? Banks, Smith, Flowers, Addison, Porter, Murphy, Branch, even Torrance could be an option. Smith, Ringo, Avila. Wow. At this point, I'm ready for Brad Holmes to trade up and take a tight end in the first round. Brad Holmes does not know what, not that he doesn't know what he's doing. Brad Holmes does not like to tell us what he is going to do. It is interesting for sure, to say the very least. Oh my goodness. With the 21st pick, Jalen Hyatt makes sense here. If wide receivers are coming off, maybe Quentin Johnston makes a lot of sense here too. I'm a genius. Quentin Johnston is the pick. I don't love Quentin Johnston, but I get it. 6'2" guy, explosive athlete, really good after the run. If he can learn to catch with his hands and, kind of reach that ceiling, he'll be a very good football player. And, giving obviously Justin Herbert more weapons is not necessarily a bad idea. I had Johnston. Where did I have Johnston? I moved him down like right before the draft. I have Johnston 48. He's the 48th overall prospect in this draft class. That is where I have Quentin Johnston being. Who else is gone? Has nobody else really been off the board that I've not marked off? JSN, I did get right. Yep. All right, so we're actually caught up fairly well. Yeah, Quentin Johnston, I think athletic anomaly, right? Big, fast. He looks like Julio Jones. And then he runs a route and catches the football, and he doesn't look like Julio Jones. Right? He has concentration drops. He lets the ball hit his chest a lot. I don't love it. Doesn't run a lot of routes other than goes. Doesn't create separation other than like deep speed. But I get it. I get it. I kind of understand. He's a Charger. I mocked him to the Chargers earlier today. And I think that it's a solid pick. I don't dislike the pick. I want to see if they have added Jack Campbell as a starter. I think linebacker needed improving for sure. Linebacker is one of the positions that I thought we could address in the second round. Turns out Brad Holmes wanted him in the first. Take the first linebacker, took the second running back. You're still getting players at the top of their position groups. I don't hate it. I don't dislike it. This is going to be off the top of my head, probably Deonte Banks out of Maryland. That makes a lot of sense. Fits the scheme, fits kind of what they like as Ravens. That's what they like at the Baltimore Ravens facility. That or Nolan Smith. I think either one would be a really good pick for them. Wow. Looking at the remaining prospects, however, Levis is on the board. I don't know if Levis makes it into the first round. Like at this point, it's Minnesota or bust. Maybe the Saints too. But like at this point, where is Will Levis going to go? Because Tennessee passed on him despite needing a quarterback pretty desperately. Tampa Bay passed on him despite needing a quarterback very desperately. Obviously Baltimore's not going to take him. Minnesota could take him, but if Minnesota passes on him, like Jacksonville won't, New York won't, Dallas won't, Buffalo won't, Cincy won't. I would even bet New Orleans doesn't. And then obviously the Super Bowl contenders aren't going to. So then you go back down, right? It's Pittsburgh's not, Arizona's not, maybe like potentially Detroit at 34. But even then I'm like, I would like Will Levis at 34. I think that would make a lot of sense. But if he makes it past that, like the Colts aren't going to take him because they just drafted Anthony Richardson. The Rams could, but I don't think that that's kind of their big problem right now. The Seahawks probably won't. Raiders potentially could. So, I mean, if he doesn't go through Minnesota, like he's not going to be a first round pick, which is insane to think about because, all these people that are like, oh, Josh Allen, Big Ben, or, even some guys we're like, hey, Jay Cutler, which is, you could do a lot worse than Jay Cutler, but it's just kind of insane to me. It's just kind of crazy. Now, would I be shocked if the Lions traded up or down? Not particularly, because they have 3 seconds, right? They still have 3, 6. They still have 8 picks, which is kind of crazy to think about. Okay, they did not give all the details of the mock draft trade on ESPN or like wherever it was. It looks, I'm going to see if I can find it, but it looks like we got an extra 5th as well. Detroit Lions, Arizona Cardinals draft trade. Okay. This was not shown during the broadcast. During the broadcast, it said 6 for 12 and 34. What it really was 6 and 81 for 12, 34, and 168. And I've gone back and forth on this trade now because new information keeps not arising, but like it was not shown very well. That's a solid pick. That's like a solid trade up, right? Obviously, you move back 6 spots, but you move up, whatever 81 to 34 is. That's math. I don't do math anymore. I passed that. And then you get 168, which is like a late 5th on top of it. Tony Hawley says D-line the next 2 picks. Maybe for sure. I would guess Deontay Banks is the pick here. If not, maybe like Addison, like maybe Jordan Addison or Jay Flowers. D-line, I could definitely see. Like D-line still needs a little work for sure. Now, if you're still here, edge rusher or D lineman, like D tackle, because Nolan Smith's good, Miles Murphy's good. I like Felix Anudike Usama. Felix Anudike Usama. I know that name. I don't know why I fumbled it. Mozzie's really good. I think we could see Mozzie at 34. Not on Breeze, but I like Tui. I like BJ Ojolari. Keanu Benton or Keon White. Keanu White, again, is at the draft, was expected to be a first-round pick. Could be a Raven, potentially. But there's D linemen left for sure. There's definitely defensive linemen left that need to be addressed. Minnesota's on the clock. I'm really, really interested because there was all the talk about them trading up for Will Levis, them trading up for Anthony Richardson, even trading up for Hendon Hooker, right? But Hendon Hooker and Will Levis are still on the board. So do they pull the trigger, or was it just draft and media hype? Was it just kind of the story that got the views and the clicks? I don't think Will Levis is all that good, but I think at 23, that's the appropriate value for Will Levis. Right? So we're going to wait and see. Roger Goodell's up with the 22nd overall pick. I would assume it's Deontay Banks. It's Zay Flowers. Okay, interesting. I did say that was a possibility as well. Zay Flowers, a really explosive wide receiver, definitely a field stretcher. Can be a deep threat, can be a slot guy, runs really, really good routes. I think second best route runner in this class next to only the great Jackson Smith and Jigba. A little surprised they passed on the hometown Deontay Banks. But, you give Lamar weapons. Like, they've not done it the last 2 years. They went out and they got OBJ. They have the guy, he's from Minnesota, whose name's escaping me currently, but was the wide receiver one last year for the Ravens when he was healthy and actually looked okay. What is it? Ravens depth chart. I know the name. Why can't I think of it? Rashad Bateman, OBJ, Devin Duvernay, and now Zay Flowers. That is a good receiving core. With J.K. Dobbins and Mark Andrews, that is a good offense. That should be a top 10 offense scoring-wise in the NFL next season. Zay Flowers is the pick. We're starting to see wide receivers go. Back-to-back-to-back, actually, wide receivers all off the board. I would not be surprised if Minnesota goes wide receiver. If they take Jordan Addison, I think they'd have the best route-running duo in the NFL immediately. Will Levis is certainly the choice. Certainly the opportunity there. Miles Murphy, probably not, but that defensive line could always use help. They could always use corners. Their pass defense was bottom in the NFL last year, like the very bottom. Jordan Addison makes a level of sense. I think it's either Addison, Levis, or a cornerback, whoever their highest rated cornerback is. Mine is Deontay, but obviously they could value different things more than I would. As a Lions fan, the worst thing they can do, like worst as in like most painful for the Lions long term, probably Jordan Addison or Miles Murphy. Like, if they draft Will Levis, I won't be super scared because Will Levis is one of those guys that it's like, even though I admit there's like a level of talent there, right? I admit that there's arm strength. I admit that there's arm talent. I just have a really hard time seeing him succeed in the NFL. I think for a player that doesn't have the mobility aspect that you want, like Richardson and Stroud and Young, you need to be able to make quick decisions. And I don't think he makes decisions like Young. I don't think he makes them like Stroud or Richardson or Hooker. I think even guys a little bit later, like DTR, make better decisions most of the time. Like Will Levis, I think, is solely on the field at Kentucky because of his arm strength and because Kentucky didn't have anything better. And I get like the pro ready concept. I get like the arm talent, but the decision making and even a lot of the time the accuracies for a guy that doesn't run, that doesn't give you the Josh Allen running effect, doesn't give you the Lamar Jackson running effect. Like he's so, I feel like, underdeveloped as a passer almost, despite that being his position. I just have a really bad gut feeling about Will Levis. How do you like our picks so far? I think it's like a solid B, like overall solid B first round. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is, funnily enough, the Jameson Williams of a running back, right? I think he's Jameson Williams at running back. He has a jetpack on. He is going to run 4.3. He is lightning quick, has great contact balance, can be used in the receiving game. And I think we will move on from Swift very shortly at some point. Either today or tomorrow, we'll move on from Swift, maybe even to move back into the third round if that becomes the case on tomorrow, like tomorrow night. I think that's like a B plus pick considering the compensation they got back, considering they moved up to 35 and got either an early 6 or a late 5. Good value. I give it a B plus for like the overall arching trade and pick. And then Jack Campbell, not my top guy, but is my top linebacker. I would have preferred guys like Miles Murphy or Joey Porter or like even Banks, but linebacker was a weakness that needed to be addressed. And it was addressed with the best linebacker in the draft. So I made this comment a little bit earlier. It's going to take time. It's going to essentially, I'm not going to grade the draft until it's done, right? Because if the Lions go out and they get Miles Murphy in the second, or they get like Joey Porter Jr. or Deonte Banks in the second, that is essentially a third first round pick as far as talent goes, right? So, and then they have 3 second round picks. Like they have 3 more picks in the top 50 still. So they can move up, they can move down and get more draft capital. Like I think there's a real shot Miles Murphy could be there. There's a real shot that Deonte Banks could be there because there's only 8 more picks tonight, right? 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. There's 9 picks left tonight. So if you're talking about 9 players I want to see the Detroit Lions get, and you go 9, 10, 11, 12, there's 12 picks until the Lions are up again. There's 2 edge rushers that I really like. There's 2 cornerbacks that I absolutely love. Even Will Levis, that's 5 players. If at 34, I could see the risk. Jordan Addison is 7. Osiris Torrance is 8. Mozzie Smith is 9. I could see being taken at 35. Cam Smith is 10. Going down even further, I think Tui could be at 35. That's 11. I think Hyatt could be there. That's 12. I think Mingo could be there. 13. Benton could be there. BJ Ojolari could be there. That's 14, 15. Like the Lions are going to get a really good talent still. Not necessarily a first rounder. Like the only way they're getting a first round talent is if it's Nolan Smith, Miles Murphy, or Will Levis. But they're getting a good talent still. So I think that as the Minnesota Vikings has really taken this down with almost less than 30 seconds left. So I'm gonna wait to grade the draft class as a whole, but the individual picks, I give Jahmyr Gibbs a B plus, and I give Jack Campbell a solid B. Like they're good football players. They'll make the football team better. They just aren't the necessarily positions of biggest impact or like highest longevity even. Right? Linebacker, I think, is not a very prestigious position on the defense anymore. And of course, running back, you could be the best running back in the NFL, and 3 years later, you could really struggle because you just take a lot of hits. So it's all going to depend as the Vikings are now not on the clock. They have made their selection at 23. I think it's Will Levis or Jordan Addison or a corner. Oh, the three like kind of 3-player thing I'll give is Levis, Addison, or Porter. I think Porter. It says, I don't think we should have moved back. If we wanted a running back, we should have just stayed at 6 and picked Robinson. Still like Gibbs, but Robinson was definitely beat. Hey, Robinson was very good. Like, no arguments from you there. But I think Brad Holmes loves the athletic profile of Gibbs. I think he likes the home run speed. And admittedly, there is an argument that Jameer is better than Bijan. Now, I'm not going to make that argument because I don't believe in that argument. But if you're talking, they're different profile players, right? Bijan's probably more your inside the tackle, workhorse, bell cow. Jameer Gibbs is going to get 150 carries a season and go off for 1,000 yards, 1,300 scrimmage yards. Like, he's more explosive. I wouldn't say he's a better wide receiver, but he's a fully capable wide receiver. And again, brings you that massive big play element. So Roger Goodell's at the board, 23rd overall pick, Minnesota Vikings select Jordan Addison. Whew, okay. Not awful. I think, give Kirk Cousins the weapons. You're still, long-term quarterback plan is still not quite there, but the vision's there. The vision is, is going to work. So let's see what continues to happen. But yeah, as far as, running back, if you want running back, go Bijan at 6. I get that argument, but at the same time, you pick up and you move 81 to 35 plus an extra 5th round pick. It's good value to move down. You get a more explosive playmaker. You get a more, big playmaker, because that's where realistic. That's where Bijan's, kind of his problem was. Like, he wasn't a home run hitter. He got 4.4, like high 4.4 speed. Like, he can take it to the house, but he's probably not going to take it like 70 yards to the house, whereas like on any given play, Jameer Gibbs could legitimately home run, like slam the door type of play. So if you're looking for a bigger play guy, if you're looking for a bigger play running back, you're looking for somebody that is Alvin Kamara mixed with like the Flash, is pretty good value. Can you break down the picks we have left? Yeah, for sure. So the Detroit Lions they will not pick again until 34. They have the 34th overall pick, the 48th overall pick, the 55th overall pick, and then there's a 100 pick gap before you pick 152, 159, 7 picks, 7 picks after that, or what, 9 picks after that, you go 168, and then 183, 194. It is going to be get your playmakers early, shotgun approach at the end, right? You get, hopefully, I think best player left, Myles Murphy on the kind of on the edge, right, as the pass rusher. Hopefully he falls to 34. 48, you get your corner, or maybe even double up at defensive line. 55, get your corner, or like if Benton or Mozzie ends up falling, you go, get that there. Ideally, right? My picks, and this is just, we don't know what's going to happen the rest of the first round, obviously. I would hope, ideal situation is Murphy, Mozzie, Mingo. The 3 M's. Murphy, not Caleb Murphy. Myles Murphy, Mozzie Smith, and Jonathan Mingo. Right? That gives you your X. That gives you your defensive tackle. That gives you your edge rusher. You don't get a corner, but that's okay, because next year's cornerback class is also very good. Now, you could go and you'll drop to 154, right? You'll drop to 152. So you're not going to have a cornerback, but Garrett Williams is really good. Jartavis Martin is really good and can be down there in like the 150s. Elijah Ricks is really good. Jacorian Bennett is solid. Q Blue Kelly was at one point looked at as like a 3rd-round pick type of guy. So there are cornerbacks that are going to be there. Safety is another position I think we need to address going all the way down. You're going to miss out on Sidney Brown. You're going to miss out on Jordan Battle. You're going to miss out on probably Jamie Robinson. LJ Skinner could be a really good pick down in the 150s. Jair Brown, same thing. Christopher Smith, Ronnie Hickman, Brandon Joseph, some good safety depth. Quindell Johnston and Trey Dean are both here, as well as Rashawn Torrance. All guys I think will be good playmakers in the NFL. You go quarterback, right? You want a backup quarterback. DTR probably won't make it to 152, but Jake Hayner probably will. Clayton Tune might. Aiden O'Connell will. Stetson Bennett's going to be there. Even Malik Cunningham, Jaron Hall is going to be there. So, there's a lot of opportunity still, I'll say, with this draft class, right? You might not have gotten the biggest positional values, but you did well. Now, the Giants just traded up for the 24th overall pick and submitted that one. So that selection is going to be, just go all of them so it doesn't do anything crazy. That selection is going to be Deonte Banks. I think a good cornerback. Am I going to be streaming tomorrow? I will not be streaming tomorrow. Only the first night, but I'll give, be giving updates. I'll be sending out what I think about the picks and giving my baseline opinion of like what I think. And of course, if you have any questions, DM me on Twitter, DM me on Instagram. Like I'm always open, love responding, love talking football with you guys. So any questions I'd be willing to answer. And, I'll be watching for sure. I just probably won't be streaming. But I'll update you on Twitter and social medias and stuff and be like, hey, this is, best players left available. Basically what we do here, just without hearing my voice quite as much, because my voice already kind of hurts and we still have a solid number of picks left. The Jaguars moved down one spot for a 5th and a 7th, picked 160 and 240. Not awful value to move up one spot for Deonte Banks. I'm going to scroll down just a teeny bit so you guys can see a little better. I had Deonte Banks as my 13th overall player. I think he's really, really good. Makes a lot of good plays. And, does get beat on occasion, but has good NFL hips, has good NFL feet, has good NFL eyes. Like, super good football player overall. I love the player. I think he'd be really good. Jordan Addison's also off the board. He is a Minnesota Viking, as is Zay Flowers is a Baltimore Raven. So we can get those guys off the board now. And we wait and see. But, you're talking about the Lions, right? They pick at 34. They pick in 10 selections. Nolan Smith would be a good pick. Joey Porter, Miles Murphy, Brian Branch, Will Levis, Osiris Torrance. 3, 4, 5, 6. Ringo, Cam Smith. 7, 8. Even Harrison Avila, Darnell Washington could be a good pick. Like Jonathan Mingo could be a good pick. You have a lot of picks. You're 10 spots away. Could we see the Lions move back up and go get like Miles Murphy? That'd be pretty sweet, right? You trade up with the Bengals. You don't need a whole lot. You go get Miles Murphy, the edge rusher. You give him DeAndre Swift because Joe Mixon just got hurt. That's what's going to happen. That's what I'm calling it now. The Lions wait until Cincinnati's on the clock if Miles Murphy's still there. And, instead of Miles Murphy going from Clemson Tigers to Cincinnati Bengals, he's going from Tiger to Lion. He's switching big cats. He's coming over. He's going to be a good edge rusher for the Lions next year. I'm calling it. I'm predicting it now. It's going to be, 34 and DeAndre Swift for 28 and probably like a 6th round pick because Brad Holmes loves those late picks. So yeah. Good selection there. Deonte Banks, the 24th overall selection of the 2023 NFL Draft. I think that's my ideal situation right now. If I spoil the pick here, I apologize. I'm going to go to Troy Lions, right? Enter. Okay, Deonte Banks is not on the board. So, the Bills traded up. Ooh, okay. Okay, the Bills traded up here. I wonder who this is for. Miles Murphy isn't bad. right? But if I'm the Lions, right, and this is a what if scenario and a half, you go 28, 34, right? You want to jump 6 spots in the NFL draft? You can have DeAndre Swift, sure, and we'll take 163. That seems like a fair trade to me, right? You move up 6 spots, you get an extra draft asset, and you go up and you get a third first round pick. You get that 5th-year option, and you go get the best edge rusher left in the draft. The trade is likely accepted. You might even be able to like fleece out like a 31. So, you know, good opportunity still for the Detroit Lions. For sure. The Buffalo Bills did trade up, and it says they still hold their 27th pick. I wonder who. I mean, I know they traded with Jacksonville, who didn't have a ton of needs. I would have assumed they go cornerback because they need one, like pretty significantly. So who does Buffalo go with? Well, so they have Buffalo going with Nolan Smith, but and okay, I'm just gonna risk it because there's not a good way for me to guess who it's gonna be. If they've already picked it, They have not. Okay, cool. It's not gonna be Levis. It's probably not gonna be Kitnick. It might be Smith or Murphy or Branch. It could be Branch. Probably not Mayer. Maybe Porter. Maybe Harrison. Maybe Osiris Torrance. I'm gonna guess based on need, based on the fact that they want to run the ball more, they're going to get a mauler in the middle of their offensive line. They just traded up because they know Dallas. Maybe not. Okay, they have corrected it. Jacksonville does, in fact, hold the 27th pick. I think Jacksonville's going to go I think they traded up to get ahead of Jacksonville to take an offensive lineman on the interior, and that is going to be Osiris Torrance, the offensive guard from Florida. My top offensive guard in the class, and I think it'd be a very, very good pick for them. I think that makes the most sense. Murphy makes like a sliver of sense. If they really want to go crazy, they could go running back and they could take Zach Charbonnet from UCLA. That could be pretty intense. The pick is in. They traded up 2 spots. Probably gave up like a 5th and a 7th, a 5th and a 6th. Not a whole lot of value. So we're gonna find out what do the Buffalo Bills want with the Jaguars' 25th overall pick. I would guess they traded up to get an offensive lineman. I think it's going to be Osiris Torrance, the offensive guard from Florida. So, which means Myles Murphy and Nolan Smith continue to fall. They continue to go down the board, and I am not opposed to it. As of right now, how many first-round picks do we have left? Nolan's left, Joey's left, Myles, Brian, Levis, Torrance, Keely, Cam, Anton, who I didn't really have as a first-round pick, but I thought was going to go a little higher because the tackle runoff. Avila, same thing. These are all second-round guys. My first round stops at 27, which is pretty crazy to think about. But with 6 picks left in the first round, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 first-round talents left. And one of them probably going to come off the board here, but at least one of them, Will Levis is not going to go in the first round, by the way, unless somebody trades up. There's a 0.1 chance he'd be available at pick 25. He's definitely not happy about it, but the Buffalo Bills, again, haven't seen it, but I would guess Osiris Torrance is that guy. Yeah, the Will Levis fall is pretty crazy. And even as somebody who's not like very publicly not been very high on Will Levis, 25 seems like a very appropriate value for a guy who can throw it like 80 yards standing still. Like, Yeah, there's a lot of things to work on. Yeah, his processing speed isn't very good. Yeah, his decision making is kind of shaky. Yeah, his accuracy and like all the things that make a quarterback a good quarterback are kind of shaky. But he has the arm talent. Like he can place the ball anywhere. He can get the ball wherever it needs to be on the field. He just needs to rein it in a little bit and kind of catch up. But there's the problem, right? If you couldn't catch up to college speeds, right? If you couldn't catch up to Vanderbilt, how are you gonna take on San Francisco? How are you gonna take on Philadelphia? How are you gonna take on like Cincinnati if you can't even throw a touchdown versus Vanderbilt? And I get it, the weapons, the coaching is whatever. As a first round talent, if you can't throw a touchdown versus Vanderbilt, you can't process at the speed of which Vanderbilt plays. How are you going to play versus San Francisco? How are you going to play versus the elite defenses of the NFL? And it sounds like I'm being incredibly harsh on Will Levis because he's a professional athlete and I have the right to do that. But the talent is there, right? The talent physically is there. And there's going to be somebody that's going to bet, hey, I can fix that guy. They might not be right, but somebody's going to take the risk on it. Ooh. Dalton Kitnick, huh? Dalton Kitnick is the 25th overall pick. That's an odd one. I guess maybe Dallas would have taken a tight end, so that's where you really wanted to come over. Let's go get a second string quarterback. Go get Will Levis. Will Levis has a high ceiling. And Will Levis, if nothing else, Will Levis can be a great quarterback in the NFL. I was never a person that was like, yeah, Levis in the top 10, Levis in the top 15. Levis at 25 seems fairly appropriate. But we like genuinely might see a big fall off. We might not see another quarterback drafted until like the third round, which sounds crazy because, obviously Will Levis has been like graded as the number 3 quarterback for a while, or like at least coming into the season he was. And there was so many people that were high on him, but that's what happens when, you don't look very good. That's what happens when, kind of like Malik Willis, right? You come into the season with a lot of expectations and you play like you're a third or fourth round talent, despite obviously not being that low on the talent sheet. So Dalton Kitnick is officially off the board. It was not in my first round, but I didn't have any tight end graded as a first round selection. And I think Kitnick was my tight end 3, but that's just because I like Michael Mayer a little better as an overall player. And I like Darnell Washington a lot more from an athletic profile. But Dalton Kitnick, the 49th overall player on my board. Tight ends fill a lot on my board because I don't see the positional value, but I do think that he can be a very good player. I think even the top tight ends would probably be a second round pick, unless it's Kelsey. I think Kelsey's the only tight end in the NFL I think warrants a first round pick right now, which might be crazy to say, but I don't think I would spend a first round. Like if they were redrafting, right, the NFL right now, if they did like a fantasy draft or whatever, like you can do on Madden, like I don't think tight end goes in the first round. I don't think tight end, other than Travis Kelsey, probably gets selected into like at least the 5th round. So, it's just not the biggest position for playmakers. And I think there has to be a very specific situation for you to pick a tight end high. And I think it's kind of like running back. And I think the Bills are one of those teams that can afford to do that because they have a really good passing game, right? They have Josh Allen who can deliver the football. They have a decent enough offensive line. Like they can do good things with Dalton Kitnick. And I think that's a solid pick. Jerry Jones is on the clock in the kind of looks like a spaceship with the neon Dallas Cowboy light behind him. We're going to see what he does. The Lions also still have to address their new helmet. Like that was supposed to come out in the spring and we're almost in the summer. So that should also be coming out soon, which is pretty cool. Dallas is on the clock. I wouldn't be shocked if this was like Darnell Washington. I wouldn't be shocked at all. Miles Murphy wouldn't surprise me either. Kitnick, very good tight end. Charbonnet might not even surprise me, but I don't think that's like probably going to happen. Mayer makes sense. Washington makes sense. You know, they're a team that, again, they're a playoff team. They can afford a tight end. Murphy makes a level of sense. Porter next to Diggs makes, I like that pick a lot. Michael Mayer is fun to watch though. Like he's I think Jason Witten's a very good comparison. Or like even kind of like a baby Gronkowski. Like very, very light baby Gronkowski. Would be he's a really good tight end. Like he's really, really solid at it. So if he's the pick here, I think that's a decent pickup. Porter makes sense. Again, Murphy makes sense. All the top guys still here. Kind of a wild card. Maybe they go with like Mozzie Smith. I could see that being very, very much on the table. Mozzie Smith or Keanu Benton, my top two remaining defensive linemen. So there's that. 2022 consensus All-American is Michael Mayer. Then Dallas has about a minute left to decide what they want to do. I'm not gonna lie. Like tail end of the first round doesn't feel very good, right? Like Levis is like a very shaky prospect. Like Nolan Smith has the injury. I think Brian Branch, I'm a little worried because it's like, hey, where's he gonna fit? Like, is he gonna be purely a slot guy? Is he gonna be a deep safety? Is he gonna be a hybrid, a nickel? Like, what's going on? I'm not entirely sure. Murphy, the tape last year was really sketchy. Porter was never tested. Like first round talent. Like I think Joey Porter's very talented. I think Mayer, Murphy, Branch, Smith, Levis. I think they all have a lot of talent. Like Torrance, same thing. But like a lot of question marks are left on the table, which is slightly concerning for anybody that might want to trade up or anybody that might still, want those players. So they've been showing highlights of Michael Mayer. The pick is officially in. Michael Mayer makes as much sense as anybody else. So we'll see what happens. Pick is in. All of the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders are there tonight. The mascot is excited. I think we're going to have to wait just a teeny bit longer. We could always skip ahead and cheat, but that's okay. We'll wait. We'll play the game. I think Michael Mayer makes a lot of sense here. My God, if Osiris Torrance and if we go out of the first round and it's Murphy, Porter, and Cyrus, and the Lions have the third pick, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really good. Very good. Osiris Torrance could complete the offensive line. Joey Porter could kind of complete the secondary. And Miles Murphy, like, what did he do last year? I watched Miles Murphy, but honestly, I don't know if I ever like really looked at him statistically. Sports reference. Like, what did he like? I know he was looked at as a top 10 pick to start the season, right? 2 years ago, 2021 with Clemson, 14 and a half tackles for loss, 8 sacks. Last year, 13 games, like 11 and a half tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. He can be a really good edge rusher. Like not Aiden Hutchinson or like James Houston good, but like he can be, I'm coining this term from Brett Coleman, he can be like the Robin to Aiden Hutchinson's Batman. Like he can be the complementary pass rusher that gets 8 to 9 sacks a season and just feasts on quarterbacks because they're worried about Aiden Hutchinson. Right, he'd benefit from not getting double teamed. He'd benefit from having a pass rushing mate. Dallas is finally picking pick 26. They're gonna go with Mozzie Smith. Ooh, okay, I like that. I was a person that, again, we talked about very much a nose tackle, not bringing you a whole lot from the pass rushing perspective, but a great run defender, great nose tackle in the middle for the Dallas Cowboys. Adding that to a defensive line of Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence makes a ton of sense. Makes a ton of sense. Mozzie Smith, we thought could sneak into the end of the first round, and that is what he does. 36 on PFF's board, and he's pretty high on my board, I seem to remember. Keanu Benton's there. I think I had Mozzie just below him. Definitely had him above Breeze, so he's in here somewhere. I definitely had Mozzie Smith. No way. No shot I didn't. I only have Mozzie Smith on here one time. Mozzie Smith somehow escaped getting onto my big board. But if I had to pick him, he'd be right up here with Keanu Benton. He'd be right here in like the mid 40s. In fact, I won't do it because it'll mess up all the coloring, but he'd slide in right in here, like 44 probably. So it's a good pick for sure. It's a solid pick. Jacksonville's on the clock. Brian Branch feels like the easy option, right? Brian Branch feels like the guy that's always being mocked to them. Obviously not going to click it just yet. They're on the clock. They've traded back twice. I don't know what their other compensation was, but they traded from 25 to 20, or they traded from 24 to 25 and then 25 to 27. Probably picked up 3 or 4 picks in that span alone. And now they're on the board. Brian Branch feels like a good pick, or Joey Porter. Either one, I think, is kind of the guy here. So I'd feel confident betting on either Branch or Porter. Both of them are good secondary members. I think both of them would help the Jaguars secondary a lot. And when you're in a conference where you have to get past Mahomes and Burrow and Allen and Herbert, you're going to need some secondary guys. And I think they need help there. And I think that's where they're going to get their help this offseason. So Murphy's not a bad option either. Torrance, obviously, protect Trevor Lawrence at all costs is kind of a respectable decision to make if that is the case. But as of right now, the Lions' big 3 are still on the board. At least my big 3 for the Lions, I should say, are still on the board. And at this point, I'm even down for Will Levis. Like, full disclosure, I'm down for Will Levis because at the very least, he'll be a good backup quarterback for a long time. So, and who knows? He might even get a chance to start. If it doesn't work, just move on. Who cares? Like, it's a 2nd round pick, maybe a 3rd round pick. Who cares? It's just Will Levis. But 7th overall player on PFF's big board. We have 2 new lines tonight, Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell. 2 of the least valuable positions, and yet 2 of the probably really exciting players. Oh, Teddy Bridgewater's a Lion. At this point, like, if it's not Levis and it's not ETR or O'Connell, like, those are my 3 quarterbacks where it's like I'd rather them than Teddy Bridgewater. Yeah, I'm good with TB. Like, he's a good veteran quarterback, knows what he's doing, is not it's not on the fence as far as like we know, like off the field troubles. No, we don't know what he's capable of. Like, we can survive with Teddy Bridgewater. So we'll see what happens. I think Ben Johnson could kind of fix Will Levis, to be honest. Like, if nothing else could put him in a position to succeed. And then you obviously have 2 years of Jared Goff left. So like, if Will Levis is like, crazy in the preseason and then is really, really good at practice, and you feel like, his confidence is there, like the arm talent's obviously been there, like the processing got a lot better, the decision making got a lot better. Like, you can move on from Goff in 2 years, have 2 more years of Will Levis if he's good, or you have 2 years to evaluate him at practice and be like, nah. Like, we'll trade him for like a 5th, 6th, and then you move on from there. And yeah, it might be a wasted experiment, but the Lions are kind of a team right now that can afford to miss on that experiment. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if whoever's looking at Will Levis still goes to the 1st round, goes to 31 with Kansas City to get that extra 5th year option, if that makes any amount of sense to anybody. So my voice is starting to hurt. We've been on for 3.5 hours, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a really, really interesting draft, right? We've started off with kind of chalkboard picks, right? Young, Stroud, Anderson, Richardson. Seattle kind of played spoiler a little bit, did a little out there move with Devon Witherspoon, but I think good. Lions traded 6 for Paris Johnson. Tyree was a good pick. Bijan was a good pick. Jalen was a great pick. Darnell and Skoronski were the right picks, I think, for those positions. Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm just really excited to see Jahmyr Gibbs play. This one ripped my heart out, but I think it's a good pick for them. Great pick for the Steelers. A little bit of a reach, I think, for the Jets, but not a bad pick. Again, reach, but not awful. Great pick, solid pick, good pick. And then the wide receivers, I think we're all pretty good. 4 in a row, which is I didn't realize until right now. And then Banks, I think, was kind of a steal talent-wise. Kitnick makes sense, and then Mozzie Smith makes a lot of sense. So, not too many teams really failing the NFL draft right now. I'd say the only guys that really have made mistakes are maybe the Lions. Like, honestly, maybe the Lions. I don't think they're winning this draft right now. Probably the Jets, and that's really it. Really it. Just kind of the Jets, the Commanders, and maybe the Lions. But I'm excited to see what happens with the rest of the class. Roger Goodell's announcing the pick right now, 27th overall pick. I would expect Brian Branch, but who knows what's going to happen. Ooh, Anton Harrison, offensive tackle, Clemson. So this makes sense in hindsight, right? Cam Robinson, I believe, got suspended today or yesterday. Is going to be out for a little bit. Wasn't, from what I've heard from Jaguars fans, kind of a liability, and definitely didn't have the best game versus James Houston or Aiden Hutchinson when they played the Lions. I think Anton Harrison is a relatively pro-ready tackle. Has kind of a good attitude to play tackle, kind of has that mean demeanor to him. I had him graded as a second-round pick, but I get it. He's the best tackle left on the board, so if you feel like you have to protect Trevor Lawrence, you go get the premium position, even if it's not necessarily a first-round talent-wise. But I get it. Like, I mean, he's good in pass protection. He's good in run support. He does everything really well. So 27 makes a lot of sense. I mean, they probably got 4 extra picks just to go get the guy that they were probably going to take at 24 anyway. Cincinnati's on the clock. This was my bold prediction. I had the Lions trading up, getting Miles Murphy in the first round, and swapping 34 for 28 Swift and then like 131. Will it happen? Probably not, because the Bengals just made a pick. They need safety. I could see them going tight end. I could see them going like Darnell Washington or Michael Mayer. That could be really, really interesting for them. They need safety help and like DB help in general, but probably not here unless it's Brian Branch. But I don't really view him as like a deep Jesse Bates replacement. I view him as more of like a slot, almost CJ Gardner-Johnson type guy. And then, yeah, so tight end's really interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and they just keep giving Joe Burrow weapon after weapon. I think it's Brian Branch or it is Michael Mayer. Those are my 2 guesses. I'm going to go with Brian Branch. Brian Branch is, I think, going to be the selection here. They lost their safeties. They, just had a lot of trouble in free agency. I feel like keeping some guys around. But I think this is going to be the pick where, they kind of gain some of that talent back, right? Get your guy, get Brian Branch. I think a top, 20 player in this class, talent wise. Where you're going to scheme him, where you're going to put him, who really knows? But we're going to find out when the Bengals take him here at 28. So 4 picks left in the first round. 4 picks remaining. The Bengals, the Saints. I think this Saints pick is probably the last place Will Levis is going to go if he's going to go in the first round. But the pick is in for Cincinnati. What is it going to be? Let us see. Rodgers being slow to the podium again, but that's okay. I think he just likes being booed at. Quite honestly, I think he likes to draw it out. With the 228th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to select Miles Murphy. Interesting. So they're going to go defensive line help. They're going to try to get to Patrick Mahomes more often. Miles Murphy is the selection. And that hurts a little bit because obviously that was a target I wanted for the Lions. The Lions have 6 picks left, and I think it was like some good players. Yeah, that's where I wanted to. Miles Murphy off the board. I think a really good player from Clemson. Was really hoping he'd fall 6 more picks, 7 more picks, but um, you know, I get it. Like, I think he deserves very much to be a first round selection. The Lions have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're up again in 6 selections. Levis would be a value. Branch could be a value. Porter could be a value. Torrance could be a value. Benton or Smith. Like there's guys. If you don't like Levis, which I totally get, right? Top guys, Porter, Osiris, Cam Smith, or maybe a pass rusher like Benton or White, or even BJ Ojolari. So there's guys for sure. Definitely players left. The Lions are not going to be out of luck at the second round, but this pick hurts a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Tony knows. Tony and I have very similar feelings about this one. We're not don't love that, but I do get it. I do understand it. It's a pick that makes sense, but stings a little. Now, the Raiders signed Derek Carr to a 4-year deal. So quarterback's probably not on the table, but also how much faith do you have in Derek Carr? Right? And if you don't go Derek Carr, where are you going to go? Are you going to go Osiris Torrance to protect him? Are you going to go Nolan Smith to rush after losing Marcus Davenport? Are you going to go defensive back to pair with Marshawn Lattimore? Like, are you just going to go absolutely crazy and get like a wide receiver or like a running back to kind of replace Alvin Kamara? Like, there's, again, a good amount of opportunities, a good number of outcomes here. And we just don't quite know what that's going to be. So, the Detroit Lions just talking to talk for a bit while the New Orleans Saints are busy. I don't know. I feel like we set ourselves up for really high expectations, right? We set ourselves up for all of these things of like, we're going to get Will Anderson. We're going to get Jalen Carter. We're going to get Tyree Wilson. We're going to get Christian Gonzalez. We're going to get Javon Witherspoon. We're going to get all these players. And yeah, those are all top 10 players in the class. Like, those are all players the Lions could have and maybe even should have, you could argue, have gotten. But I don't think the Lions got bad value. I think the Lions got the most explosive offensive, skill position player in the draft, most explosive skill position guy, and they got the best linebacker. So if you go out and you address defensive line with Keanu Benton, and then you go get Mingo, and then you go get Porter, Benton, Mingo. I'm not saying this draft needs to be saved, but I've not been on Twitter. I've not seen anything, but I'm pretty convinced people are not happy. And now, we're at the point now where I think we can go on Twitter and kind of see what's going on. We have a lot of notifications waiting for us. I can wait till later. I'd love to know. I'd love to know. This is a great pick. Somebody's going to give him an S or an F. It's not. Yep. See, people are not happy. C- should have stayed at 6 for Jalen. Yeah. Fair enough. I think Jalen Carter actually had some problems if he wasn't taken at 6. Taken or in the second round, F for taking them in the first round. No. Nope. I disagree. I think they were late first. I think they're explosive playmakers. But again, I think this is going to be one of those classes where it's the big picture is going to look better than the individual picks. So we're gonna see. There are so many people mad. I knew there was going to be so many people that were upset. Yeah. I knew there was a lot of people. We'll find out, though. We'll find out. I'm not going to grade this until we have the entire draft under our belts. Because last year we said the same thing. After Josh Pascal was taken, everybody was upset, and it turned out to be all right. Okay, this guy's a little higher than me. I give it a B plus because of the trade, and then I give it a B because of that. So I give the first round like a solid B, like a B plus. Like, the Lions did not fail the first round. Like, I know they didn't get Carter, I know they didn't get like the big flashy names, but they didn't need the big flashy names. And if Joey Porter ends up falling out of the first round, that would be wild. Like, there are two guys there are two guys left on the board that I think are true legit. Cam Smith too. So 3 guys in the first round that I think are true. I guess Nolan Smith. I'm going to just count before I say another number. So Smith, I think, is like a real first talent. Brian Branch, I think, is a top 15 talent. Joey Porter, I think, is a top 20 talent. Osiris Torrance, I think, is a first-round talent. And Cam Smith. That's 5 players that I think are true first-round talent guys. And the Lions only have 6 picks to go. So they're not guaranteed. And Brian Brzee goes to the Saints. Thank you. The Lions cannot take Brian Brzee. Thank goodness. The Lions are going to get a first-round talent, or at least have the opportunity at a first-round talent at the 35th overall selection. Interesting. Saints go Brian Branch. Back-to-back Clemson defenders, which I find very interesting. Brian Brzee all the way down here at 40. I'm not the biggest fan of Brian Brzee personally. I've been very low on Brian Brzee for a long time. I just don't see it, man. I just don't see it. I don't see it in the run game. I see flashes of it in the pass game. The injury concerns, like I know there's going to be somebody who's like, well, actually, his sister, passed away and he had a kidney thing. And like, yeah, I get that. I get that it's not like, oh, he's like out because of a sprained ankle every week, or like, but he did tear his ACL and hasn't looked the same since tearing his ACL 2 years ago. And for one reason or another, he has consistently missed time at the collegiate level. I get it. Like, he's probably not going to have another kidney infection. Like, I get it. The whole situation with his sister where he took time away from the team. I understand it. I get it. And I'm not necessarily holding that particularly against him. But, at some point, a player has to play. Like, at some point, a player, oh my God, if the Philadelphia Eagles are going to take Nolan Smith here at 30, when everybody mocked them to him at 10, that would be incredible. Who did the Eagles take earlier? The Eagles had a good pick, didn't they? Yeah, they got Jalen Carter. Oh my gosh, they're going to get Jalen Carter, and then they're going to get Nolan Smith. But going back to Brian Brzee, like, not my thing. We could have had Robinson or Carter at 6. We are one player away, and I feel like Holmes might have missed it. We'll have to wait and see. Because I think if Keanu Benton's the pick at 34, people are not going to be as upset. I think if Joey Porter's the pick, people are not going to be as upset about missing on Christian Gonzalez, right? I think if Nolan Smith is the pick at 34, people are not going to be as upset about missing out on Jalen Carter or like another pass rusher. So even Keon White, I think, is a potential first-round pick. So there's still talent on the board. I get it, right? The initial reaction is, how do you take a running back when the biggest position of need and best player on the board is there? They clearly didn't like him. The character concerns were clearly too much. That's why he went to 9. That's why Detroit passed. That's why Seattle passed. That's why, going back up the board, that's why Chicago even passed. Atlanta passed. The Raiders passed, right? teams that could use defensive line help passed on Jalen Carter. Now the Eagles are stable enough and I guess wealthy enough as far as draft capital to miss. Did the Eagles take are you saying that just based off of Jalen Carter, or do you know the 30th overall pick? Because if it's Nolan Smith, I don't disagree. They probably won. But we will see what happens. I think Nolan Smith is a super good player. He's pretty good versus the run. Right now, my two guys are Joey Porter and Osiris Torrance. If those guys don't go, I'm feeling pretty good for tomorrow. I'm feeling pretty solid. Will Levis looks so sad, man. He looks so upset. But we'll see what has to happen for him to get drafted. He might go to the third round. Like, there's people that have him graded as like a day two, like late day two guy. I have him graded as a late round one, pretty much on the tools alone. Like the tape he showed was probably like a late day two, but the talent, the arm talent is clearly there. So he's a late day one for me because of the ceiling and upside. But I mean, you look at Josh Allen, right? Look at his floor. That guy went at 7. And I think Will Levis is arguably more talented than Josh Allen, like physically talented. So that should tell you something about where Will Levis is as a quarterback prospect right now. Why he's at 30, honestly, I'm not sure. I'm honestly not entirely sure, but I'm surprised, not shocked. And for anybody that thought Hendon Hooker should have been the pick at 18, no. Philadelphia is making the call. I really don't like Nick Sirianni because I think he acts kind of childish, but the Eagles have built quite a roster, man. Howie Roseman is so good. And I don't know who they're picking, but I hope it's not Nolan Smith. And if it is, like, whatever, like Nolan Smith, I think is more good from like the leadership standpoint. And, you know, if we're talking defensive line, right, you have D-line, which at Benton's clearly the best one. And then you have edge. The Lions can not save it because they don't need to save it. It's not done. But, you know, Jalen Carter could have been the option. I'm not convinced that Jahmyr Gibbs wouldn't have been at 18. But, hey, I've been told all offseason, we trust Brad Holmes. He's going to put us in a position to succeed. And then he gets you the best playmaker in the class and the best linebacker in the class to like a position of actual need, and everybody's all kinds of upset. Do we trust in Brad Holmes? I trust in Brad Holmes. Like, I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt until the players don't work out. So I trust Brad Holmes to get my job done. I trust Brad Holmes to smash day 2 and 3 and absolutely kill it. I think it's going to be really funny. This guy, Ben, I think is a little over excited, but I think he's got the right thing. I like Gibbs, but he's a third-round talent. Swift is not better. Swift is not better than Jahmyr Gibbs. Don't let anybody tell you that. It is not true. How do you feel about the trade? Great trade, meh payoff. Are you upset about the picks? Easy fix. Watch the tape, not the highlights. Actual film. Watch every snap. They're in. No, they're very good players. They're super good players. I'll basically say the exact same thing when the Lions drafted tight end Hawkinson. The positional value there were Lions. Look, RB Gibbs and linebacker, they basically have to be frequent Pro Bowl All-Pros justify their selections. No, I think if Jack Campbell makes a tackle to win the Super Bowl and doesn't make the Pro Bowl, I think we'll all be okay. Like if Jahmyr Gibbs breaks off a massive run, that is dude perfect. That's funny. They're from Dallas. I don't know why they're doing for Philadelphia. That's goofy. But no, they're both dogs. They're definitely both dogs. He was so happy. Like, we just added line. No, I don't know about that, but we added some good playmakers, like for sure. No, 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 no. Yeah, really. What happened to I trust Brad Holmes, whatever he does? That's facts. Is he really? Okay, so Campbell, 10-yard splits are similar. The vert is similar. Bigger broad. Not better three. Actually, yeah, better three cone, better broad, and better, not better shuttle, but three cone and broad, that shows explosiveness, change of direction, acceleration. Hey, you know what? Good on Brad Holmes. This needs a retweet. This needs a retweet. I like it. I like it a lot. So now let me ask the people that are here. Would you have drafted Luke Kuechly with the 18th overall pick? Because it is Nolan Smith. Oh man, that's okay. Yeah, Nolan Smith is that guy. Oh, he knew it. He knew it. He knew it. He's joining his former teammate. The Chiefs are on the clock. Who do the Chiefs take, huh? Who do the Chiefs take? Because, I mean, obviously not a quarterback. Could they go wide receiver? Are there any good wide receivers left? Like Josh Johns is solid. Or defensive line? I don't know. But here's what I want to do. Because I did not put this comparison together, but Sports Reference. Get two of them up because I need to. What if we do like Luke Kuechly, and then we go Jack Campbell? Obviously, right? Luke Kuechly is kind of a big step, right? Okay. So Luke Kuechly was drafted 9th overall. Luke Kuechly in college had 233 tackles, and Jack Campbell had 299. Luke Kuechly had 35 tackles for loss. Didn't have quite that. He had 2.5 sacks. Campbell had more. He had 7 interceptions. That's quite a bit. Campbell had 5. Right? He had more passes defended, and they don't have this information for Kuechly, which is odd. But from an athletic standpoint, from a size and build standpoint, and from a production standpoint, it's not an awful comparison. I didn't think about that, but it's not an awful comparison. I really don't dislike that. It makes me feel a little bit better, to be totally honest. You would have thought that Joey Porter would be available in the second round. Honestly, I think the Steelers are going to snag him in the second round, which would hurt my feelings. But the Lions are going to, at least be available for Porter, Cyrus, or Benton. And who knows, dude? Brad Holmes could like Gravon Dexter like down in the 100s and just like pull it out of his bag, dude. I have no idea what is going on. 3 minutes left for the Chiefs as they bring out their 2 Super Bowl trophies to just flex on the whole city of Kansas City, I guess, because that's where the draft is being held. Very, very interesting. We'll refresh it really quickly, see if the final pick can be in, if we can sneak it under a little bit of time, sneak it before midnight. Nope, still on the board. That's okay. That's fine. Wow, they're gonna place the trophy, the third. Well, they have a pedestal for a third Super Bowl trophy. Who knows if they're gonna get there? All right. Well, Nolan Smith would have been good. I don't know. Nolan Smith is like kind of an odd one because a lot of people had him as like tier 1 of edge rusher. He never produced, which really bothered me, but I liked the run stuffer. I liked the athletic profile, like the leader, especially in the second round. It would have been really good. Nice to have. I'm a little shocked Brian Branch is here. I'm shocked that Porter's there. Shocked that Torrance. Where does Kansas City go? That's a great question. But what if they trade it to somebody? Like, what if the Rams come up and get Levis or like whoever else is even in the market for a quarterback still? I honestly have no idea. Chiefs Kingdom. Yeah, the Lions didn't lose the draft tonight for sure, but they're not walking away as winners necessarily. Like last year we were like, yeah, they got the best defensive player and the best offensive player in the draft. They crushed it. This year, I think they got the most explosive playmaker and the best linebacker, which isn't bad. You got two players at the top of their position groups, two players that can certainly help you win now. But the long-term solutions are still kind of a question mark, just like last year, right? We didn't know how like defensive tackle was going to look. We didn't know how safety was going to look. We didn't know how like linebacker was going to look after day one. So cornerback's a big need. Cornerback's probably going to go on day 2 or 3, right? I mean, defensive tackle, big need, day 2 or 3. Even wide receiver, like I wouldn't be shocked if wide receiver was like a day 2, day 3 thing, like a late day 2, day 3 thing. Obviously, we're going to find out. We're going to see what happens. We are going to see what happens. The one player I'm shocked the most, I think, is Joey Porter. I thought Joey Porter would go well before like the mid-20s. So the fact that he's still there makes me excited. The fact that Pittsburgh, he has to get past Pittsburgh and Arizona makes me really heartbroken. Because I think he'll be the first pick tomorrow. I think he'll be the 32nd overall pick, which is really unfortunate. Well, the pick is in. Let's see what Kansas City has dialed up. Kansas City, with the last pick in the first round of the NFL draft, selects nobody because they're still on the clock. Okay, Roger, hurry up. Quit giving your speeches and let's get this thing going. The whole stadium's lit up in red. It's going to be so fun when it's lit up in blue for Detroit, and they're picking at 32. The pick is in. Roger, Roger, Roger. I think he's on his way out, though. He's walking up to the podium. He's going to say, congratulations on your Super Bowls. Or maybe that's not him. So let us see what is going on. Lots of KC fans for sure. Oof, Twitter's going to be fun for the next 24 hours. I'm sure there are Bears fans that are excited to tell me how much we suck. I'm sure there are Packers fans excited to talk trash. I'm sure there are Vikings fans excited to talk trash. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. But I still think the Lions. I think the Packers won the first round, to be totally honest. Like in our division, I think it goes Packers. I think it goes Packers, Bears. Back and forth between Vikings and Lions. I think wide receiver probably wasn't like, I mean, it's a need for the Vikings, but I think the Lions got a more dynamic playmaker. Plus, they got a top linebacker. So I'd go Packers, Bears, Lions, Vikings. I think they got third place in the first round. But that's okay. Brad Holmes cooks. Brad Holmes cooks in the third round. He got, what is he at? He's like 8 picks left in it still, doesn't he? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. My man has 8 picks to work with. 8 picks to absolutely cook with. We're going to be completely fine. I'm not worried in the slightest. You told me Brad Holmes had 8 picks, none in the first round. And I think we're still chilling. I think Lions fans still feel that confidence. Ooh, okay. Felix and Adike Uzama. Very, very interesting. A good player out of Kansas State, obviously. Kind of, I think, is going to replace Frank Clark. It's going to be Uzama and Karlaftis from last year. I think two similar players in two similar situations. Both drafted really late in the first round, obviously, have a lot of talent, but weren't quite able to necessarily like show off everything they could do for a football team. Now, with that being said, we are approaching the 4-hour mark for night one of the NFL draft. And I will recap it really, really quickly, kind of give an initial gut feeling grade on all of the picks, and then we'll sign off for tonight, and we'll let the GMs figure it out tomorrow. Bryce Young, number one, I think an A pick, couldn't have done much better. CJ Stroud, again, A pick, couldn't have done a whole lot better there. Trading up for Will Anderson, that's an S tier move. That's a W right there. Texans had a really good draft tonight. Anthony Richardson was the right pick. Again, an A. Devon Witherspoon, B+. Cornerback at 5 is a little rich, but Devon Witherspoon's very good. Paris Johnson trading back up for they essentially like improved their draft stock by taking all of Houston's picks and trading away all of their picks. But Paris Johnson, good pick for the Cardinals. Tyree Wilson, great pick here for the Steelers. If he's healthy, he's going to be one of the best picks in the first round. Bijan at 8 is wild. I said it as a joke, and it ended up working out. Steal of the first round right here in Jalen Carter. Really good pick here. Peter Skoronski, good pick. Jahmyr Gibbs, shocker, but not bad. B+. Van Ness, I think an A pick. A pick for the Steelers, probably like a B- for the Jets. I liked Will McDonald, but I had him as like a second round pick. Same thing with Forbes, probably like a C-. A, B, probably B+. A pick for sure. Like a B, because I think he's good and athletic, just not super like receiver-y. Zay Flowers is a great pick. Jordan Addison's a good pick. Banks is a good pick for New York. Kitnick makes sense. Smith, I think, was a great pick. Same with Anton Harrison. Murphy broke my heart a little bit. The Saints missed. I'm going to just say it. The Saints missed. And then the Eagles, the Texans, and who else? The Eagles, the Texans, and probably the Eagles and Texans won tonight's draft. But with all that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. The first round of the NFL draft is officially over. And we, the Detroit Lions, have 2 new members to the Pride tonight, that being Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell. We'll have to wait and see what tomorrow has in store for us. Hopefully we can get some defensive tackles. Hopefully we can get some edge rushers, some pass rushers, and some offensive weapons. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you all so much for watching this 4-hour stream with me. With all that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.